Fred. What's up, Fred? Hey, Fred. Yeah, I don't know. Nope, I can get it.
All right, good.
Well, I hope this is recording because we don't know where the recorder is.
Well, I do see it, what appears to be.
Well, I know it's on. I'm assuming it's all.
Green light, whether it's recording audio.
Yes? Neil?
I will, take copious notes.
Let me just see if I could ask him real quick.
Oh, they are?
Oh, they are on.
They're on.
Yeah, everything's on, but I don't know if it's recording. That's what I'm asking. It's all
Well,
on.
if those are on, the odds of that recording are higher. Because also, hold on. It's recording.
Okay?
There's a, Mr. Chair, on that computer, you'll see a button that says stop recording.
So it's going to something. That's okay.
That is not in my pay grade.
Yeah, me either. Okay. Why don't we get going? And you can all stand for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to roll call the board for attendance and then our professionals as well. Member Allen, I know, is not going to be here. He's on a college trip with his son, I think, or his daughter, his child, anyway. Member Boucher, present. Member Hefnecker.
Present.
Member Iannucci is also not available tonight. Member Carlich.
Present.
Member Kelly.
Present.
Member Umberto.
Present.
And the planning board professionals, member, or Attorney Cassidy. And Engineer O'Rourke is not here, but Dave Higgins is in for John this evening. And then we have for 208, our engineer Natalie Barber present, and the village building inspector Jim Cox also present. All right. First up on our application tonight is 30 Carpenter Place, and I see David Namaco. So David, I guess you just give a quick overview. We've got all the paperwork, so just give a quick overview.
Sure, absolutely. So this is regarding the Lisco restaurant, which is right around the corner. You know, quite honestly, they had started work. Building department was there. They issued a stop work order because the work that was being proposed needed to have planning board approval. So what they're proposing is to extend the existing patio, line it with low-rise split-face block walls, masonry walls, and then in addition to that, they'd like to add a trellis roof covering that would cover part of the patio. In the original, as Jim mentioned in his determination letter in the CD district for restaurant, any amendment to the site would need planning board approval, so this is an amended site plan that we have before you. Originally, what was approved was approximately 610 square feet of patio. What we're proposing right now is an additional 552 square feet. So that would make a total of 1,162 square feet of patio. As I mentioned about the patio walls that would line this area, and then the trellis roof that they're proposing is 630 square feet. It would extend from the building out, and it's approximately 19 by 32. What's not shown in the plan too, and I want to bring to the board's attention, is they probably are going to propose an outdoor bar area which would have a sink, and that would be under the trellis area. So we're asking for your approval on the proposed work. Dave Higgins did just pass along the comment letter to me, so I had an opportunity to read it over. I'd be more than happy to discuss it further.
Okay, so before we do that, David, why don't we have you go ahead and make those comments on the record?
Sure. Okay, number one, the plan should include a boundary survey with meets and bounds, as well as field survey topographical data, as this will be needed for retaining wall design. Map should be signed and sealed by New York State licensed land surveyor. Number two, the design professional should ensure the plan reflects the current existing conditions at the site. It appears that the front walkway configuration and the parking on the west side of the building do not reflect actual field conditions. I think there's just a slight difference between what's shown and what's there. Number three, the plan should reflect all proposed grading and mature tree removal required for the construction of the patio. Number four, any existing or proposed outdoor lighting should be shown on the plan. Number five, plan should show any outdoor tables and seating if proposed. Number six, plan should include parking calculations in accordance with 200-46 of the village code. Number seven, construction details for the proposed retaining wall along with proposed elevations should be provided. Number eight, based upon a site visit, it appears that ADA parking lacks the required signage. Plan should provide detail to ensure ADA parking, including signage and marking, complies with New York State Building Code. Number nine, the plan has been prepared at an unusual scale of 1 inch equals 15 feet. We request that future submissions use a standard engineering scale. For example, 1 inch is 10 feet or 1 inch is 20 feet. Number 10, the project will require referral to the county due to proximity to the Orange County Heritage Trail. And number 11, we have the following comments on the short environmental assessment form. Item 3 needs to be completed, and item 17B should be changed to indicate that stormwater runoff will be directed to established conveyance systems. That's it.
Okay. Elizabeth, anything from you on the legal side?
Dave got most of my comments, but it does require a public hearing because it's a special permit. Secret comments, applicant to address the yes answer in EAF number 12. Plan to be updated to reflect amended site plan and special permit approval. Dave touched upon this, but the parking, the applicant indicates the purpose of the patio is to expand dining space. The calculation should reflect both indoor and outdoor being used simultaneously. And then applicant to confirm, site plan confirm meets requirements of 272I. And this is more of an engineering, but masonry details wall and fence to confirm compliance with 226.5. And then the application is also subject to architectural review per 273.
Okay.
And
Could we get a copy?
Okay. Thanks. So, just one second, Dave, we're going to move the microphone down. The mayor just asked me to move the microphone down, so I guess it captures the recording.
Is there a spot on that side to plug in?
Yes.
I would think there is, yeah.
Jeff, I just want to add one other thing.
Sure.
David, the plans show that addition, existing storage, it's actually, that has not been constructed yet, so it should stay proposed.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they did want to construct that as well.
You do?
Yeah. So just make sure that's added into the
Okay.
plans.
I didn't realize that was on the list. So they want to build that?
All right, so I'm guessing, Dave, you'll have to go back and obviously address a number of these comments, but did you want to address some of them right now?
You know what, I think the comments were fair and reasonable. We'll address them. The one thing I would ask the board to reconsider is the need for an updated survey. We did prepare the plot plan off a survey that had been done. There are a lot of reasons why I would request that. One is time. Getting a surveyor to do the work is not going to happen within the next submission. I mean, we have some of the grades are not to the extent that's going to exceed what the building code would require or what the zoning code would dictate. It is a moderate rise in grade behind those landscaping walls. So, and I believe there are points out there that can show the property lines. So my only thought on these comments is if the board would consider waiving that.
What's the last survey of record?
07.
That's, sounds too old.
It's a bit old.
Yeah, sounds some time ago. That's a bit dated.
Yeah,
Certainly dated.
Unfortunately, I think you should get a survey anyway, that
Yeah.
would be encroached onto the neighboring property.
Well,
Right,
this
might
is
as
true
well
to,
do.
Yeah,
that's why, one of the reasons why the owner received the stop work order, so there's no question about that.
yeah, I think it would be,
The surveys, particularly since we're that close to the I mean, there are improvements that close to the
Yeah.
property line. We have to have the survey.
And I think the topography, I think you wanna know also for the retaining wall. You wanna know how high the wall needs to be, et cetera, and if those are 4 feet, then it has to be engineered with, calculations and designed by an engineer to the building department.
right.
This is all true, there's no question.
Thanks for verifying.
We have the fortunate experience that the walls are there already. So we I mean, it's a double-edged sword, it was done, that's why a stop work order was issued. There's no question about it, but the walls are there. I mean, the grades are there, they're cut back. We can provide the retaining wall detail, but it no way exceeds 4 feet in height. And if we could meet in the middle, perhaps, if we can continue with the submission, if we order a survey, get that on board, it might take a little longer than the next submission date, but if we can continue with the submission so we can get in line for public hearing and go ahead and send it out to 239 referral, that would be great. At least the project would continue. towards
Yeah, I don't see a problem with going out for referral. Do you, Elizabeth?
I gotta make sure we see the papers that
We
he
can
has a contract.
send it out for referral. I'd like to
Got it.
see
He
the
has to
survey
submit that.
before we schedule a public hearing, so it's part of the public record.
They did all
Right,
this.
yeah. No, it would definitely have to be part of the public record.
Are you
I don't
kidding
know
me?
how long you anticipate a survey to take. I don't
Shouldn't-
know that it would take.
Shouldn't be that long. I don't know.
I'm thinking.
The only thing right now
It's
is
about 4 to 5 weeks out.
you might have vacations right now is the only thing I'm thinking, but other than that, you can get a survey.
I think in light of how close we are to the property line, the representation that there's an existing
Yeah.
encroachment, if it encroaches, we're gonna make you take the encroachment out as part of the approval. So I think at this point, let's get the survey before we set the public hearing, and at the same time we set the public hearing, we can refer it out.
Yeah, I think it's in the applicant's best interest, in the long run there, so.
We have quite a few things we can submit. You have architectural review, you have details. We'll make the next submission. We'll go ahead and I'll talk to the client, make sure we order a survey and get it on board before the public hearing's set.
Good, okay, perfect. Excellent. Anything else from the board? Comments? No?
Just
No.
long,
Good?
just as long as his next submittal shows that the survey is ordered and there's a purchase order for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it won't go to the public meeting anyway. We're not gonna,
See that.
I wouldn't schedule a
Right.
public hearing until we had that information.
So the evidence of it would be the survey itself.
right,
Mhm.
so, perfect. Yeah, anything else?
No, it's good to see everybody in person.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yes, good to see you too.
I don't know if I have good feelings or bad feelings. Anyway, have a great evening.
You too.
That was short.
And you don't need me here anymore, right?
Nope, you're good. Thanks for stopping in.
Great day, great night, guys.
Take care.
You too, David.
Flood one far, right?
Huh?
Flood one.
I- no.
Another one.
Actually, the board.
Crazy.
Okay.
No, I think you're good, Jim. I think you're good.
I don't think you need me for this.
No.
I'll see you later.
All right, so next on the agenda is the Route 208 Business Park. trying to find my notes. Okay. Hang on one sec. So I think we have Attorney Gottlieb, right?
Yes, Charles Gottlieb.
Charles Gottlieb. All right, I think, well, just to set the table here a little bit, you received, I think, Engineer Barber's notes
Yep.
and specs and everything, okay. So, do we need anything from Natalie first? Or you,
Well, I just had a few things, maybe just to.
yeah,
point
probably
out
start there
what's going on
because
there.
there's so much there
Yeah, of
that we'll
course.
just have you start.
Sure. So Charles Gottlieb, Land Use Environmental Counsel for the applicant, here with Kirk Rother and John Dahlgren, the consultants for the application. Here for continued review of the DEIS. We're on our fourth round of completeness comments. A few completeness threshold items that I just want to go over before we dive into the comments. We do have some questions about the comments that were received. We received engineering comments and comments from Elizabeth Cassidy's office. We have not received additional comments from Mr. Fink or related to traffic. I will say related to traffic, I think those comments were minor and were addressed. And Mr. Fink also had limited comments that had not yet been addressed.
Right, so he was not able to access the new comments. I just heard from him earlier today. None of us are sure really what happened to our secretary at the moment, so she didn't respond to him. He didn't even get to check to see if his comments were addressed, but you're telling us they weren't anyway.
Well, no,
His most recent ones.
we haven't seen his most recent comments.
So everything else that he did say was addressed? Because he gave some preliminary ones, I remember.
So we submitted on
Okay.
July 18th that had comments on, I believe, his early June or May, his May memo.
Right, and that was probably the last one he
There
did.
were maybe 4 comments he had that weren't addressed.
Right,
We feel as though we've addressed them now, but certainly, Ted will respond,
yeah,
hopefully soon.
I will
Yes.
send you, I have Andrea's memo, I will forward it to you now.
Okay. So I just want to reiterate that the completeness process under SECRA is not a substantive review of the project yet. That we haven't even gotten to that point yet. If you look at the SECRA regulations, and I went through them again this afternoon, the draft environmental impact statement, the purpose of it is to make it clear, concise is one of the most important things, and it says not encyclopedic, it should be analysis with data in the reports that support your analysis. It needs to be written in a manner that's understandable by the public. So these are the thresholds we have to determine whether or not something is complete. You might not agree with all the information in the DEIS, and that's fine, and there's a time for you to state your disagreements, your consultants to state your disagreements, and we can hopefully address them. We're not yet at that stage, we want to be at that stage. So again, we're just saying, is the information in the document, is it in a manner where the public can review it? And then we can circulate it out to the involved agencies, make sure the public is able to view it, have a public hearing, get everyone's comments, and then we do the final environmental impact statement, which is the substantive review of the project. So we wanted to go through item by item tonight. Natalie's comments. We haven't seen the traffic comments. I don't know, Elizabeth, if it's something that's resolved and we're good to go or not. Traffic.
I think Andrew's final disposition was that it was complete from
Okay.
a traffic standpoint.
Yeah, I'm forwarding it to you now.
Okay, great.
I didn't realize you weren't copying it, sorry.
That's okay. And I hope I've been in front of this board now a number of times where I'm not unreasonable, right? And so the last go around, we were missing a geotech report, right? So I get pushed from my clients, right? Let's get this complete, And my advice was, no, we need the geotech report. That was submitted. But we are getting to a point where the comments are becoming so minor about placement of where things are in the document that it's just adding to delay, and delay is costing significant money. In addition, delay is now allowing the village board to review a host of local laws that could potentially impact the project. Now, Elizabeth just showed me one of them, and there's a grandfathered clause, and that's great, but you can understand the imposition this places on the development. We just have so much uncertainty and so much risk because we haven't even been able to get deemed complete. So I do believe that when we talk through Natalie's comments this evening, there is something we can do where, yes, we'll make some of the changes. Of course, fix the typos. You want this analysis in this paragraph and instead of that paragraph, fine, we'll make those changes. But there is a mechanism in secret where this board can deem it complete with conditions of completeness. And I'm just using examples, but put the period here and not there. Put the comma there and not here. So it's complete, we make the changes, those changes are confirmed by Natalie, confirmed by Elizabeth and your other consultants, and then we circulate it for review.
So I would say this, Mr. Gottlieb, and I appreciate everything you're saying there. I think, from my reading of the document, there are substantive issues that have not been addressed. I don't think it's all changing the grammar or, minor things. There's quite a bit of that, I'm sure. But I think there's more substantive things, and so I think going right through the items that we think are substantive, I think would be a great thing right now.
Yeah, and I think that's good, but again, we're using that word substantive comments.
Only because you used unsubstantive.
Well, those are for the FEIS and that review process. Right now, is the information that was requested in the document, yes or no? If it's no, we have to put it in the document. If it's yes, it's complete, we can go to the next stage, we can talk about our disagreements and kind of work through
Sure, yeah, I think we're all clear on that.
Okay,
Should I,
yeah, if we want to take them one by one and we can,
and I just wanted to kind of reiterate that I do agree with a lot of Mr. Gottlieb's, preliminary statements about this process and, what the purpose of this document is. And really, we're not focusing on the technical aspects of the document, but looking for what was required in the scope. Is it in the DEIS? So we tried to really focus on that. I know our memo does talk about certain discrepancies as far as, inconsistencies throughout the DEIS or references to appendices that are incorrect. And we really wouldn't even included them if there weren't other issues that needed to be addressed. So kind of going through that, I just wanted to point out that we did get a copy of the executive summary separate from the DEIS submission. That was received on August 10th, so 4 days ago, but we were able to review that. Specifically, regarding the executive summary, there are certain requirements of the scoping document that are missing in the DEIS. So one of them is a discussion on the existing conditions for each impact. So that needs to be provided within the DEIS in order for it to be complete. The second comment that we had on the executive summary was that comparative assessment needs to be provided, listing all the alternatives, and a chart is also required specifically by the scoping document. So those two items, I think, are completeness issues. Again, a direct comparison from the scoping document to the DEIS submission.
sure, so existing conditions, we'll add that in, right? And so you could find it complete, subject to us adding that in, related to the comparative assessment. That, I don't want to make it sound like that comparative assessment isn't in the document. It's in the document, just not in the executive session. So executive section, summary, whatever we're calling it. The executive session is a very common term. So, this board does have the power to say, okay, fine, we don't need that chart in 2 places. But again, we'll put it in there. It's going to make it lengthy, and people probably won't even get through the executive summary at this point. But fine, again, but this is something you could say, it's complete, conditioned on us putting in that comparative analysis in the executive summary.
Okay, again, I think that, I tend to disagree with one of the things that you just stated is that mostly the public, I think, is going to get through the executive summary and probably stop there. So having the content brought forth from, the really technical and detailed sections of the report brought forward to the executive summary that may be 10, 15 pages long is probably what your public is going to get through. So readable, understandable by the public, but it should include that important information that's technical in the appendices. There needs to be a discussion of what's in the appendices in the DEIS so that it's brought forward to the overall reader. Not sure if you wanted to talk about that, Charlie.
Well, yeah, sure. So when the DEIS was drafted, we did it with what's the most important thing that the public is going to draw out of that geotech assessment. And it was, there's not going to be any blasting. The removal can be done by mechanical means. I doubt you're going to find a member of the public who's worried about bearing capacity. I don't even really fully understand that, and I've been doing land use stuff for 15 years. But again, we'll do that, right? If we have the geotech report, we just need to put in these additional, more technical findings in the draft of the DEIS. So again, we submit that's something we can do with a conditional completeness. Put it in there, have Natalie review, say yes, this is what I was looking for.
Hmm?
And it's more intended to be a summary versus, the technical aspects of all of those analyses in the appendix. So the next one, the next three comments actually are repeated from, I think, the last three reviews that we had. So, I do, again, appreciate Mr. Gottlieb's understanding that some of this information may be found elsewhere in the DEIS, but the scope requires it in certain sections, which is why we continue to repeat these comments. So, one of them under wetlands and surface waters is a calculation of the volume of sediment, nutrients, and other pollutants. The DEIS references calculations in the SWIP in section 3.3, but it should be discussed here. Stormwater management, we've asked for specific examples of how the project minimized impervious surfaces, and again, that's a requirement of the scoping document that's missing in the DEIS. And then Part D under vegetation and wildlife, it's kind of a repeated comment from section C, but this actually allows you to reference section C on those examples of impervious surfaces. Any questions?
Yeah, so the pollutant loading question. That information is in section 3.3-4 of the DEIS. So I understand the need or the desire to have it in multiple locations. But, again, I bring it back to, is the public, it's in the document, right? So the public is going to see it in the document. It's going to recognize the pollutant loading potential to the lake. Do they need to read it twice? Or simply can there be references within the document? I think we're taking the very literal approach of compliance with the scoping document rather than realizing, okay, this information is required in 3 parts, so that exact language has to be in all 3 parts. We can't deem it complete until that happens. Or we could say, that information's in the DEIS in this section and make reference to it. But again, something that could be conditioned. But I just don't want the impression that the information isn't in there. It's in there, just not in the desired locations.
That's correct as far as the loading calculations, but the specific examples of minimizing impervious surfaces, I think, are missing.
So if you go to section 3.2-4, they talk about the different ways that we've sought to reduce impervious surfaces for the project, not the alternatives. It talks about that we are under the zoning code's requirement for development coverage, and it talks about parking. We're compliant with the zoning code's parking regulations, but we haven't gone above and beyond that. Those are what we've done to reduce impervious surfaces. That's the information. We can't conjecture something up to address a comment. So if there are other substantive comments on how we have sought to reduce impervious surfaces, that's at the next stage of the review. But we put the information in there, how have we sought to reduce impervious surfaces for the proposed project. We put that information in there, and that should be enough to suffice for completeness. Now, if this board during the public hearing process and public comment process has other ideas of reducing impervious surfaces, we're certainly all ears, but that's what the design team has come up with as they've been going through this project for years.
We can review, I guess, the specific language that's we've reduced impervious surfaces essentially to the maximum extent required to comply with zoning, then that would be a clear and concise way to address the requirements of the slope impact plan.
Okay, I think you'll find that language in there, and maybe I can highlight it, or we can write it a different way.
On the wastewater section, this has been back and forth again with the applicant several times. They did provide an engineer's report, as formerly requested. What we've noted, and again, the appendices, I haven't actually spoken about this yet, but all of the appendices weren't included in this DEIS submission, although they were provided previously, and I think the intent was that the applicant only provided those that were changed since the last submission. Regardless, information in the appendix regarding wastewater and available capacity at the treatment plant varies from that which is in the DEIS text. So right now, the DEIS notes the available capacity as of February of 2022 is approximately 360,000 gallons per day. Appendix K includes a letter from, I believe it was Mr. Denega. Regardless, that letter is dated January of 2023, and the available treatment capacity is 260,000 gallons per day. So the more current information should really be discussed within the text of the DEIS document rather than that, antiquated information. And again, we've just asked for the available capacity be resolved, the discrepancies, and that it's consistent throughout the DEIS what it is. The last comment we had on that section was related to the potential impacts to the proposed development and timeline based on the capacity upgrades at Harriman Sewage Treatment Plant. So I think Mr. Denega discusses that, planned improvements are proposed for 2027. There's also current commitments for sewer capacities to other projects. And ultimately, if there is no capacity at the time that this project is intended to be built, then they can't build the project. So I think that there could be a discussion in a DEIS, about that letter, which is really important and critical on this issue. And again, that's, in an effort to bring forth the information, the technical information and the detailed information that's in the appendices, in a summary format for the reader so that they know, what is going on at this time.
So I'll let Kirk talk about the capacity and his correspondences with the county. The only thing I'll say, and we talked about this, was the potential for the capacity to impact the project. Of course, nothing is going to get approved or constructed without having capacity in the wastewater treatment plant. But we won't get in line or know when we have dedicated space until the point comes where we're applying for a sewer lateral connection permit. We can't do that because we can't advance the SECRA process. Once SECRA is done, we can submit that application, we can get in line, and we can go from there. This is going to be kind of a constant game of speculating. Well, there's, these 3 improvement plans that the county identified, it's all speculative. Here's the information the county's getting. But what I can say is when we get past this completeness issue and we go to the public comment phase of this, the Orange County Department of Public Works is an involved agency. They will get the DEIS and they will issue comments on it. That's why we want to get to this stage so badly, is because we need additional input from, for example, the County Department of Public Works. And the way to do that is we get this DEIS deemed complete, it goes to them, they review it, they provide comments, and then we address those comments in a substantive form. But Kirk, do you want to talk about the capacity issue?
Very, very briefly. So my engineer's report hasn't been updated, which John didn't resubmit, so I haven't seen that. As far as the number, I want to make sure we're just picking the right number. There's remaining available treatment capacity. This is the latest January document. 258,624 gallons per day. And there's also the remaining available treatment capacity within the district, and they take into account capacity at the KJ plant. 317,630 gallons per day. Which number are we gonna use? The 258?
Right,
Okay. So so I think just consistency between my engineer's report, John's document, which number we're using will address 2 out of your 3 bullet points.
Yeah, and I think, not to be, go back and forth about this too much, but these are repeated comments, so understanding the need to have this deemed complete and move on to the next process. These were all part of our last submission letter. This isn't a nitpicking thing. This is, we're not adding new comments except for on new information received, essentially, so.
But as far as the number, it's literally just, it is grammatical, make sure your numbers match.
Well, and also important, I think, for the public to know, again, where we stand as of the report date, all right?
Are we, John, are you clear on what you need to do with regard to the timing? So we got a letter from the county back, this was not the January data, the older data, where the county laid out 3 scenarios for improvements to the county sewage treatment plant at 3 very different time horizons. And it was if, these things fall into place, the improvements could be done by this time, option B scenario was this time, and so on. So John and I have been discussing, we don't really, I don't put words in your mouth.
Right, we could summarize that discussion about the timeline in different scenarios, and just so it's clear for everybody in the public.
But so I had said to John, I think no matter what, we're hoping we're in scenario 1, which is the 2027, I believe, timeframe. And that's where we're gonna go with that. You okay with that?
So you're suggesting that the project wouldn't be built until 2027?
No, we're suggesting the project would be built and online
Prior
prior
to?
to 2027.
Okay, because I think it's a 3 million gallon per day upgrade, so it would be inappropriate for you to say, like, the available treatment capacity is 3.3 million gallons per day, if that's not gonna happen until 2027, but you're looking to build in 2025.
So we're gonna say the available treatment capacity today
Mhm.
is 258,000 gallons, 624.
Right, based on.
Our
that.
demand is 7,000 gallons.
Understood.
Give or take. And I would end the conversation there, but your comment talks about discussing Eric Denega's future timeline for improvements to the plan. And we're just not understanding how that's really even applicable to this.
Well, it's applicable only again as there are other allocations or other commitments that Orange County Sewer District has made. Again, when you're proposing your build scenario, like you said, if you fall within the 2027 or say 2025 or 2023 timeframe, that's the discussion that needs to be had in the DEIS and how that capacity is at that time based on what you know now and what's been conveyed to you from the county. Does that make sense?
Well, we could summarize the letter
Yeah.
in the DEI's document, instead of referring to the letter in the appendices. Summarize the timeline and different upgrade scenarios for the Herman plant.
Okay, I think that would be sufficient.
Okay.
The next comment.
Excuse me, just one comment. You guys gotta be forewarned that if, at the public hearing, you're gonna get a lot of comments on the capacity that you're taking from the sewage plant, the capacity that you're taking from our water system, and I know a couple of people will be talking about your parking lot with the oil drippings and so on to protect the lake. I'm assuming that an oily water separator is in the draft EIS?
So we very badly want to get to the point where we're gonna hear those comments.
No, you answer my question first.
So I
Is-
am.
And I'm looking at the engineer, I wasn't looking at you. Is there an oily water separator to handle drippings from the cars that are gonna be parked there? Rainwater coming down, washing everything into the sewage system or the pond?
So none of our stormwater goes into
Say again, please?
None of our stormwater runoff enters the sewer system,
Okay, I hope not.
and almost all of it is being infiltrated via underground infiltration chambers.
So you're looking at more natural drainage into the land before it hits the pond?
That's correct.
I think you're gonna get a lot of comments on that.
Well, that's fine, but that's not a completeness issue, and we fully expect those comments. This is a large project for the area. We're of course gonna get these comments, and we'll address them in the FEIS.
I've contacted your water system operator, he said there's plenty of water available. And I actually have spoken to the county sewer about this too, and they said, don't worry about it, you'll have capacity. Now, they can't formally say that until we actually submit a permit. I'm saying it on the record, I've spoken to Anthony Griffin,
There
and he
are
told me, don't worry about Kirk, we've got something.
There are a large number of projects in and around lower Orange County.
I'm aware.
Yeah, I would,
The applicant is assuming the risk.
exactly.
As
That's what I was gonna say.
part of this, that the applicant has assumed the risk that
I
they're
believe,
ready to get in line.
Yeah, and it is what he said, it's a secret process that we have, because
I
before you can
understand
get
that.
some of the
It's
answers.
purely
Right.
developer's risk.
Hmm?
Remember, we gave these people via the village board a buy on the moratorium in November of '22.
Hmm?
So
You gave the
They've been-
applicant?
Yeah,
they've been handled with kid gloves already.
Well, I think I think the issue is tonight is going through Natalie's comments and focusing on
right.
the completion issue. The waiver was a determination made by, the village board, but tonight we're focusing on, is the document complete so that it can be circulated?
So Natalie, if you can just continue like with that, we'll try to get it all in, and
Sure.
then we're gonna hit each one.
Yeah, I really think there's only two more comments really, or three, that I wanted to kind of bring up. Just discussion on unavoidable adverse impacts associated with greenhouse gases and climate change, under proposed mitigation measures, that needs to be discussed. And I don't think that there was really any discussion on that back and forth with that. And again, it was a scoping requirement and it needs to be in the DEIS. The next one that I had was about cumulative impacts and, essentially, and I think that the applicant will want to discuss this. The scope requires, specifically that the DEIS.
They're having a sidebar.
Yeah, let's-
Just wanted to get it on the record.
I'm gonna continue if that's okay. The scope requires that the DEIS identify through discussions with not only the village of Monroe and the town of Monroe, but village of Harriman and village of KJ/town of Palm Tree, other projects that could potentially affect the resources identified and discussed in the DEIS. The DEIS was revised since the last review comments that we issued, basically indicating that specific projects were identified during the scoping process. And I think that's true specific to traffic, but not necessarily to these other issues, that we've discussed them already, as far as wastewater, water commitments and things like that. So I think that it's worth, addressing that part of the scoping document and having those discussions to see what other projects may be going on, that could potentially impact these resources.
So we talked about that this afternoon internally, and where we were confused was the cumulative assessment that was done for the water and the sewer marries or mirrors the cumulative projects that were discussed in the traffic section. Thinking that no future potential projects were identified in the scope, to my knowledge, for water and sewer. But if there's cumulative impacts related to traffic, those are larger scale projects. They would also have larger scale water and sewer demands. I don't know, John or Kirk, if you want to comment on, how we might find other projects out there. We've contacted the municipalities. This is the list we have. Are you just looking for like an affirmative statement that, we've contacted the municipalities, this list is current as of this date?
Yeah, I think specifically a reference to the municipalities that have not been, touched upon within the DEIS or where projects have not been
And Natalie, to be specific, are you talking about Harriman and
And
KJ and,
slash Palm Tree, yeah.
right, Palm Tree,
Yeah.
right?
So we've done that, and so I think what you're then just looking for is an affirmative statement that that's the case.
Right, I mean, yeah, it's missing from the DEIS right now, I mean,
Well, the data's there, it's just that affirmative statement is missing.
well, nothing from, you don't mention Harriman, KJ, or Palm Tree as far as I'm aware in the DEIS in this section.
Basically, we assumed that like Charlie summarized, that the projects that were identified during the scoping process that affected traffic, and this was, you know, reaching out to other municipalities, and during the scoping process, proposed, I guess, no-build projects that would potentially cumulatively affect traffic would also affect water and sewer and community services. And so that was the assumption that those are the major projects that were identified. Back when the scope was, you know, discussed and hashed out and approved, that the traffic no-build project would also potentially affect water, sewer, and community services. And so those are the projects we did review for the water impact, and those analysis, the cumulative water and sewer potential impacts from those projects is all in there and discussed.
It could be, but not all projects are the same, right? So
Correct.
you might have a project that does not increase or does not have a substantial change on traffic, but requires a lot of wastewater and water. You know, I can't, like, maybe it's a farming operation, you know what I mean? So
Right.
having that discussion and identifying those outliers for the other sections, I think, you know, is what really we were looking for as part of that scoping requirement.
Okay.
And then the only other thing, and this has to do with alternatives, is that the scope requires the applicant consider alternative and potential impacts as if development were to proceed as a shopping center. And we haven't received any evaluation of comparison on that within the DEIS itself.
So we talked about that, and if you see C right above, it talks about the prior 208 Monroe Plaza alternative, that was a shopping center.
Oh, is it the same?
Yeah, so that's the same.
If you check the scope, it's a bullet item, the shopping center alternative is a bullet item under the 208 Monroe Plaza alternative. So I think they're talking about the same.
Okay, when I was, yeah, I thought that maybe it was a formatting error within the scoping document itself, and that was supposed to be a separate alternative. But if that's what that was, then you can strike that comment. And then again, just, I know I mentioned it before, but when you submit the final document for completeness, all sections and appendices should be included, obviously.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to piecemeal it and get
Sure.
the wrong item.
Yeah, so what I was thinking was, depending on what this board just decides to do tonight, you know, would we compile the entire DEIS as revised per these comments in our discussions tonight with all the exhibits? Or again, do kind of the submit that things have changed, and then it can be deemed complete, and then prior to it going out, we submit a fully compiled copy?
Well, really, just a complete submission, I think, is always better. That way there's no question about, you know, what's current or what's missing, and, you know, that's my opinion, but.
The only logistical problem is, let's say we feel as though we've addressed these items, we submit full copies of everything. That's tens and tens of thousands of pages for 12 copies. That's a lot of money.
Sure.
And then if it gets deemed incomplete again, we have to kind of redo it. So what I was thinking is, we could provide another red line on top of this, the reports that have changed, include those. Hopefully it gets deemed complete. We then can compile the full DEIS, because it's probably gonna be a much larger number of copies for all the involved and interested agencies. And then that way we know we're copying the one that's been deemed complete.
Yeah.
And we can always provide, you know, red line copies of these changes we're talking about tonight, and then a full electronic copy with all the appendices, everything. That's, electronics, obviously much easier to, submit than, printing, a full copy.
I think that's a good idea,
Mm.
personally,
Mhm.
it's up to the board.
Yeah, I think too, if you get the red line, and get the electronic copy, we can go through the electronic quickly, make sure, okay,
Mhm.
it's got all the pieces there. Okay, now we'll click print. You
Yeah.
you can have that,
That's good.
rather than clicking print first, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I think you guys probably would too.
It's not a problem.
There's one other comment on the noise report. It says, we recommend assessment of information added to section 3N be included in the noise report. Is that just, you want the analysis that's in the DEIS in the noise report?
I think it would be better there, again, to avoid that highly technical discussion in the DEIS, but we can get a revised noise report, so I don't know if that was updated to include any of that information. But ultimately, it's within the DEIS, so from a completeness standpoint, I wouldn't say it's incomplete, I just think that, it would be better discussed.
Gotcha.
Is it acceptable to have it in the body?
Yeah,
Just
it's
because
fine.
there is a narrative, and analysis in the body of the DEIS section, rather than in the report. The report does have the technical backup, the worksheets, and then, kind of a summary of how the noise, measurements were taken, and weather conditions and all that. So, I prefer to have the kind of analysis in the section.
That's okay, like I said, from a completeness standpoint, we don't take exception to how it's been presented. Does the board have any questions on our comments or concerns?
Anybody?
This is for completion.
Yes, for the completion purpose, not for the project.
Right.
Right.
Natalie and I both have comments on
Right.
substance
Mhm.
and things like that, once it gets complete.
Right.
And then, as part of this process, the applicant, once we go through the public hearing and referral process, the applicant's responsibility will be to go through both agency comments, whether outside agency or comments, as well as the comments of the public. Those changes will be made in what's a document in FEIS, a final environmental impact statement, which will update and amend as appropriate.
Right.
And address those comments.
Yeah,
We get to go through another completeness
yeah.
Yeah.
saga.
Yeah, and I think it's just really important that the public have the latest information to weigh in on, just because the project itself, there's a lot of buzz, obviously you guys know that, about it. And people don't understand all the things that need to happen either, but, from traffic to, like Joe was saying, polluting things, there's, you hear dinner table conversations today about the water problem, right? That's going on constantly, so.
Constantly.
Yeah, so just having the completeness is gonna save all of us a lot of difficulty going forward, so I think that's really important. And I agree with everything about the digital copies, because to have to change that, if there's, more red lines after that, it doesn't make sense, so.
And then, once there is a completion, I will coordinate with the applicant to get, a link on the web. We'll probably do some form of, whatever, Dropbox link or whatever, so that people can readily access it. So we'll figure out some mechanism so that we can get that publicly available.
Well, we can either have it posted on the village website, or with a link, or we have a public review,
Yeah,
section on
Or
our website.
some form that we can direct, and the village clerk can go there.
Yeah.
Good. Any last comments from the board? No? You guys have what you need then, for the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that can.
Did you get comments from Ted?
Not yet,
Okay.
not yet.
No, Ted, he was looking to get on, he didn't have access to, and that was late today, I wasn't near my computer. I don't know what happened,
I'll call Ted and-
yeah, to the response, so.
Andrea's one, I believe she was happy. I just emailed that to
Mm.
Cheryl.
Charlie, would you want to talk about timing, of us making this revised to the?
Yeah, you know, we're gonna get this in as soon as we humanly possibly can. And so, I think now we've gotten to a point where we just have a handful of comments. So I think it'd probably be, when do you think, John, we could get a resubmission in?
I think, certainly by the end of the week.
By the end of this week? I know you have a planning board meeting Tuesday, that probably doesn't leave you enough time. Certainly, we would be the happiest applicants in the world if we could come back next Tuesday, but, you know, I understand there are time constraints.
Is it next
I'll tell you when the
Tuesday?
submission
Yeah,
date
no,
is.
it's next Tuesday because of the way the weeks fell.
Gotcha, okay.
It's next Tuesday?
Yeah, it's next Tuesday.
I think also that's kind of.
Yeah, that's the fourth Tuesday. And this is the second Monday, because it started on a
Yeah.
Thursday, I think it was, or something like that.
The first was a Tuesday.
The Tuesday, right?
So,
That's what I meant, Tuesday.
Yeah, you're right.
the submission date, so that you don't pull your hair out for the next meeting, is September 1, and then that will get you on the September meeting. And we do normally get, have another week in between, but because of the timing of the month, because the first day of the month is a Tuesday, that's why it's screwed up, you normally get more time.
Right.
And what is the date of the September meeting?
22nd, I think. No?
No.
24th?
It's, the work session is the 26th.
Of this month?
September.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking this
It should-
month,
it's
next
probably-
week's
It should be
meeting
the
is,
11th
Yeah.
and then
It's the
26th.
11th,
Yep.
and then
26th.
Yeah.
we're in a little bit of an.
22nd is next Tuesday though, right?
You are correct.
Yeah. I'm not-
Yes.
So there's a work session on September 11th? or-
Correct.
September 11th.
Okay.
Jeez.
So if it was possible, if we got this in the end of the week, would the September 11th work session be potential for a DEIS review?
Yeah, to review the red line version that we're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, I would think so, sure.
I mean, if you're, are you asking, can we vote at that time? Is that your question?
Well, what I was thinking was, I mean, that'd be great, I'm never gonna stop the board from voting, but, we go through on September 11th, we submit on, let's say, the 1st or by the end of this week. Then we come on September 11th, discuss the items,
Mhm.
everyone is hopefully satisfied, and then September 26th,
We'd vote.
Elizabeth has time to prepare a resolution and
Mhm. Yep.
So, John, if you're able to be done by the end of this week, can we submit it and get consultants review before the September 1st submittal? So if there are still a few loose ends, we have time to clean it up and then submit on the 1st?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just personally have to say, like, I'll do my best.
Yeah, that would doesn't. I'm like, I have no objection.
Yeah, because really most of it's the engineering, most of it.
I think it should be, if you get it in by the end of this week, it shouldn't be a problem to have comments by the first.
that'd be appreciated, thank you.
Good?
That's all I have.
And Elizabeth, you said Ted is going to review it?
I'm gonna call him and find out where he is, and I will call you, you'll be my next one.
Ted is living a retired life.
Yes.
I will call him and report back.
Yeah, I think Ted was just looking, if I understood him right, just looking for, in a text that we did, looking for the answers, the completed answers to his last comments.
Yeah, he wanted more of a comprehensive plan,
Right.
regional planning analysis, and it's in there, but,
Right.
you know, I was actually very pleased to see Ted's most recent memo where a large majority of his comments were addressed.
Right.
I'm writing him a big planner.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Natalie, thank you.
Good job, Natalie.
Now the real work happens.
What?
14 documents that we have to go through. Right now.
Oh. Only 14?
Well, 14. Now, having said that, it's about, it's given to us for review. So, like everything according to code, you can either ignore it, and then after 45 days, it goes through anyway, before you could look at it. I looked at most of it, but, you know, then I realized why I didn't go for law, just go for law. I'd rather stick pins in my eyes than be reading that stuff all day. It was like horrible. But yeah, so, no, the village,
Some of the stuff's so vague, I don't know if it's gonna pass.
what's hard is that,
That's how we always.
you know,
Jeff, if I may.
yes,
I'm sorry to keep you guys tight, but we got a lot of work to do.
no, I got it,
Sorry.
but the
I'm
village
gonna
board
excuse
Thank you.
myself, thank you.
Okay, bye, Natalie.
Good evening.
putting out to us late because they're trying to jam it in before the moratorium.
Okay.
So this is, you know, so what we're gonna do is Elizabeth is gonna have, she's got it in a DOC document, so she's gonna be taking any comments that we have. And a lot of it, I don't know that it's gonna take a lot of comment for a lot of it, there's a couple of documents that might, so Elizabeth, I'm gonna turn it to you to, you know, I don't know if you put them in order of,
I did,
okay, importance.
or at least,
but-
the order of my understanding of importance, as we go forward. So you have in the August 14th folder, a series of local laws. Two of them are somewhat, you're somewhat familiar with. I do want to draw your attention to what our standard of review is under the zoning code. And I emailed that to you, a little while
Mhm.
earlier or last week. So, one, whether the change is consistent with the aims and principles embodied in the chapter, and that refers to the zoning chapter, as to the particular districts concerned. Which areas, land uses, buildings, and establishments in the village will be directly affected by such change, and in what way will they be affected? The indirect implications of such changes and its effect on other regulations.
You talking about the HPC law right now?
No, I'm talking about
Overall.
what our standard of review
Right,
is
the
for each
standard.
law. And whether such proposed amendment is consistent with the
I
aims
wanted
of
to
the
print out all
comprehensive
those laws.
Which,
I didn't do it.
yeah,
Now, just remember too, that what we did last go around was provide our comments on the draft comprehensive plan. So that question, we need to clarify when we answer that question, are we consistent with the draft comprehensive plan? Because my understanding is the theory is that, comprehensive plan will be adopted first, and then these laws will be adopted in sequence, because you have to adopt laws that are
Right.
consistent with the comp plan. So usually the comp plan goes first.
and I think that's the important piece, because each one of those has a legislative intent that really mentions the comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan can be described as the goal document,
Right,
and the policy, overall broad policy document. Each of these local laws, can be, described as the regulatory, implementing the policy. The
Right.
comp plan doesn't regulate anything, you know, development that's in violation of the comp plan, but meets what zoning is in
right,
place.
it's the local ordinances that
And you
matter.
can have situations where a municipality adopts a comp plan, forgets to, it's like, phew, we adopted the comp plan, they don't adopt the zoning, and then we have inconsistency.
Right, so did the village board communicate to you that that's gonna be the order, they're trying to put the comprehensive plan in and
Well,
adopt it first?
The
Well,
comp plan will go first.
right, so then, and then a lot of these are local laws that they're trying to make,
And, I think
Meet
the
those
goal, I think the
goals.
goal is to, and one of the reasons they are broken down as opposed to one big, there are two ways of doing it. You can do discrete local laws, or you can do one big enormous local law, modifying a whole repeal and rewrite of the zoning code.
right,
I think this way it
We didn't do
enables them
that.
to address pieces individually, because if there's several local laws, they can go, okay, you know what, we're gonna adopt this piece, but not this piece, as opposed to if they put it all in one document.
yeah, they're trying to fix the other one, that's what they're trying to do.
Right, so, I'm gonna go a little out of order based on what my understanding of
Mhm.
what is most critical. Some of them are more simplistic, some of them are complicated. Of course, I'm gonna start with the longest one first.
Good,
The first is, the places of worship
Yep.
local law. This is local law 5 of 2023.
Which is the last one on your list, and the longest of them.
No, that's not the longest.
It's not?
Local law 4 is,
Oh, is it?
What?
local law 4 is 26 pages.
Oh, this one's only 18.
Which one is?
Local law 4 is the,
Not the bulk regulations, right? No, it's not.
Local law 4 was we already reviewed, and it's not for review right now.
okay. I stand corrected.
That's good.
Local law 4, when did we review that?
So we're in the POW schools, that one, that's the places of worship
Yep.
and schools. So,
I did catch one change that does need to be made, in section 5, they reference, section 200-34, it should be -33. Once I put it together, it took, I was like, what the heck are they doing? And then when I realized it was the wrong section,
Right.
as soon as I plugged in the right section, it made more sense. So, we touched upon this a little bit, we didn't dive, the last cycle, we didn't dive deep into this because we were told that they were making
right,
a
changes.
major change.
So did they give us a red line from the last one?
I do have.
Because I didn't see the red line when I opened this up, and,
I don't know that a red line would be helpful because it was changed so much. What originally they did was, they had all these regulations that pertained to places of worship that didn't apply to other special permit uses. So they pulled those out and applied some of those regulations to everybody because you want to treat
Right,
everybody equal.
right.
You want to treat equal treatment there.
so in the whole document, were there a lot of changes on that document from the last draft that we saw?
Mostly the pulling out.
Of those ordinance, to try and make it,
Let me just, give me 1 second, I do have a reference. I thought I'd asked him for red lines on docs we'd already seen, so let me just see if I have one. Yes, I do. So I do have a red line that I can upload to the OneDrive for your review. There's a significant expansion of the legislative purpose.
yeah, I mean, that'd be great, because I think this
Yeah.
is, if you could do that.
I'm sorry.
No, while you do that, I'm gonna, see the men's room.
Yes, please don't hit those. Keep going.
I know where it is.
So again, the biggest change there is how they pulled the special permit requirements out of the just applying to places of worship.
Square feet.
tonight's agenda.
So, since this one is so
13 on tonight's agenda.
hefty, and I'm having a little trouble uploading it to OneDrive, it's in my email, and I will upload it first thing in the morning.
Can you do an email real quick?
Um,
That's just as easy, isn't it?
What I would suggest, given how much it is put this one to, so you guys can read it. Thinking of those 4 questions that you have,
Uh-huh.
because the other ones, some of my next batch are significantly shorter,
Okay.
easier. I'm just trying to figure out how to be most efficient.
So push this one back?
But that way you can see the red line from what has changed.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier.
And then you guys at home can think about those 4 questions as you go through it. And then, we're gonna have to meet on this anyway, again, on the 22nd, and if not, set a special meeting date to continue our review. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this? On the places of worship?
Nope.
Not right now, anyways.
What?
Not right now.
Not at the moment.
The next one we have already looked at, which is modifications of the ARB. This is, introductory local law 6. So this is much less of a heavy lift.
What's it titled?
What?
Which one is it? What is it titled?
6 of 2023.
Oh, okay.
Architectural review.
Got it.
Architectural review.
Yep, got it.
So the principal change, there was a minor de minimis text change, but the principal changes has added, where architectural review kicks in, or the thresholds contained in 200-25.1, which is an out-of-character homes if those thresholds are exceeded. And we'll get to the out-of-character homes. So this is added, additional architectural review, so site plan, special permit, okay? And it also, again, incorporated some of our changes that we had, where the big one, and we've already seen this part, the planning board shall append architectural renderings, materials, and material specifications
Right.
approved and shall, so that kind of dealt with the last issue we had
Yeah.
on
Yep.
architectural review.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short-term no, it is not your design standards that you would love, but I think this is the short-term bridge. So the sole change there was to add that kind of character home which required architectural review.
So it still doesn't have a whole lot of,
What?
it still doesn't give us a whole lot of.
Well, there's other specifications, right, that are coming in behind it?
Theoretically, if the village board authorizes our planner to create design guidelines.
Okay. And I
Can
think
Can I guarantee them? No. Are they in this current round of are they in this current round?
Well, I know this,
proposals?
yeah, so I know the village is interviewed, and I believe if they haven't voted on it, they're bringing someone on as a historical architect for us. And I was supposed to meet him last week, but the mayor called me like the day before, I couldn't adjust my schedule. So, and he offered also to do the design, because he does that apparently for,
There are firms that specialize in
Yeah.
design guidelines.
so they are moving on that, is all I'm saying.
So just going through those questions, because I'd like to try to get as many of these typed up as I can. Whether the change is consistent with the aims and principles embodied in this character as the particular district is concerned. And I would just say that it, from my perspective, and I invite you, that it enforces the architectural character of the village. It helps us to enforce the architectural character of the village.
Right, I think it's a big significant difference, because we didn't have that the last time, and we all know what happened to the Spring Street apartments, right? So this now puts it into the code, that this is what we require, this is what you'll deliver, and this is what will be put up.
Mhm.
That's really the basic of this. So. Okay, so all we're looking to do is make recommendations to the village board, and does anybody have anything they want to add to what they've seen there? I think it covers what we're talking about.
The only issue is if in this cycle of local
Say that again, sorry.
If they don't, so this references another section that they haven't adopted.
Oh,
they
right, so that would have to be
adopted-
revised if they don't
Yeah,
adopt
It's
it.
a minor revision,
Right.
you know,
So what determines an out-of-character home?
we'll get to it when we get to the.
Oh,
other
you're
area.
going there?
It's in the other one.
That's,
Uh-oh.
that's, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 6,
What's the label on it?
7.
Out of character home.
That's out of character dwellings, that's 8 local
Oh.
laws from now.
Cool.
But do we have any objection?
Any objection to the one we were just looking at?
No.
I will try to address, fit our conversation into
Okay.
these 4 questions, type up for your review, and we can
Right.
go from there. Okay.
So now we're gonna look at local law 18?
No, we're gonna go to 12.
Okay.
Building height.
Building height.
Clarification of building height and FAR clarification. So, in my limited representation of the village of Monroe, I can say why this has, come up. We've had a number of applicants where they wanna make the house bigger, and we have height restrictions, and we have FAR restrictions.
They
which is
bulldoze some dirt.
floor area restrictions, and so they get clever, and they bring in a boatload of fill, and they mound it up, and they make the first floor, they make what's the first floor is a basement, and,
My house is like that. You can walk in on 2 sides, and 2 sides are somewhat covered 3/4 of the way or 2/3 of the way. And there's 2 more floors on top of that. But it's the oldest house of it. It doesn't,
Your house was built in 17 when?
1741.
So,
Hmm.
But that addition was put on in the 1850s, I think.
Oh.
So-
Well,
So it's new.
pre-Civil War.
so that's one of the reasons, that this law has come about.
Right, so this is to prevent that.
This is an effort
Right.
to prevent that.
Yeah.
So you can see, look at the definite, and you can, here they've done what they have done is they said this is how it currently reads, and then they've given you what they proposed, wanted to.
Right.
So that way in the local law itself, you can see what the change is from one to the other.
Yeah, I read through that one, so, I mean, I agree with it, what they're doing there.
So, to go back to again, I'm drawing your back to your statutory review. Is whether the change is, consistent with the aims and principles embodied in the chapter.
Yeah.
I need a little more than a yeah. Would be, I mean, I could give them a yeah, but it would be a.
No, yeah. Hell yeah.
I mean, I agree with it, but I don't know any specific, I can't tell you exactly what. I mean, it's what, what should be.
Right.
You mean the,
That we didn't have it, well, I guess we didn't have any regulation before.
well, no, we did have regulation
Yeah,
before,
but
it's
not-
just that they were getting around the regulation,
Yeah, so now,
being very creative.
Yeah, so now they're trying to define it better.
Well, so a zoning code, because it limits people's rights, is interpreted, generally speaking, is interpreted in favor of the property owner.
Right.
So, if someone says the code, the property owner gets the benefit of the doubt in a court, so we've
Right.
had some folks
Who got the benefit?
I'll just bring in some fill and make it a little higher, and then I can go higher, or I can go, and then which areas, land uses, buildings, it's gonna affect, every, pretty much village-wide and all uses. I should also be clear that all this does is trigger site plan review.
Right, that's
So-
what, right.
Because the problem is, if it's a single-family home that does it, you could build a 5,000 square foot single-family home, and under our code and many codes, it's a as of right, Jim just issues a permit. And Jim doesn't have legal authority to say, whoa, that's a lot of grading. There are some environmental constraints, if you're disturbing enough land, grading enough land, you might have to do things like that, but generally speaking, in residential applications, it doesn't come up.
Right.
So we're getting these pop-ups
Right.
sprinkled throughout the village. So it would trigger site.
Right, and that throws the character of a neighborhood off too,
Mhm.
you know, is really what they're saying, so.
And then
I
to
mean-
continue, indirect implication of change on its effect on other regulations.
Where are you reading that from?
That's one of our statutes.
Oh, the statute, yeah,
You can also say you can't think of any.
right, can't think of any.
I'm gonna type these up in draft form because we'll vote on them at a regular meeting.
Mm-hmm,
And so if in the interim you think of things, we can modify
Right.
as part.
yeah, we typically don't get 14 laws thrown at us.
Whether such proposed amendment is consistent with the aims of the comprehensive plan, and, the answer to that is there are, and I'll get you the citations, there are, provisions
Right.
in the
Mm-hmm,
comprehensive plan. And I'll set this in greater detail.
right.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that one?
Nope.
Moving on.
What do you want to do next?
Is there ever an absolute number, an absolute footage that you can add onto a house?
Yeah, there's the rate.
Hmm?
You mean height-wise?
Height-wise,
Yeah,
as well as
right, I think
area.
there's, I don't know what it is, I think it's 35 foot maybe, or 30,
It depends on which zone you're in, but also the big one that
I'm thinking
dictates
residential.
the bulk of the house, it's the floor area.
floor area ratio, right.
So that's what we were just discussing,
How-
and the way a floor area ratio would be defined under the new law, I can tell you how it's defined currently, and then, so sometimes you'll hear folks describing FAR.
Far, right.
Floor area ratio. So currently, the floor area ratio is the gross floor area of a dwelling, divided by the gross lot area. For purposes of this bulk requirement, gross floor area shall be the sum of the gross horizontal areas of the stories of the dwelling, including livable floor area within any attic, enclosed porches, whether finished or unfinished, measured to the exterior of the outside faces of the faces or walls of a building, except that accessory detached garages and accessory detached storage buildings shall not be, excluded. I think that's included, but I will check. The new definition is, the gross floor area of a dwelling to be regulated herein, divided by the gross lot area. For purposes of this bulk requirement, gross floor area shall be the sum of the gross horizontal areas of stories of a dwelling unit, measured to the exterior of the outside faces or walls of buildings, including any livable floor area within an attic, basement, or enclosed porches. Accessory detached garages less than 480 square feet, and other accessory detached buildings of less than 144 square feet shall not be included. So if you have a,
Did they take out the whether finished or unfinished on that?
they did. They added basement. They added basement. Do you want
I just don't know why that would be removed. I guess,
Okay.
so now it's finished, I guess. It doesn't say,
No, it says livable,
right, livable, so
yeah.
they made it more evasive. I'm not sure if that was the intent or not.
I can ask.
And they added the basement.
They added a basement.
So which means there's less that you can do. So it's, because now you're adding that in and it has to
Yeah.
meet the requirement. So if you're planning on a big expansion, Joe, I wouldn't.
So, if you have a
No, I
great
don't
big
need
lot,
expansion, that's for sure.
if you have a great big lot, you can build a great big house.
Right, exactly.
If you have a teeny tiny lot, you
Build-
can't build as big a house.
No McMansion on that one.
Look, I have a client who just built a 7,000 square foot house on 4 acres in Warwick, so it's enormous. But it needs FAR.
Yeah,
It needs FAR.
okay. So yeah, I would ask that question of them.
I'm sorry, livable floor area,
Okay,
this might answer your question. So livable floor area, was defined, or is currently defined as all spaces within the exterior walls of a dwelling, exclusive of garages, breezeways, unenclosed porches, heating and mechanical equipment rooms, and basements as defined herein. Livable floor area shall include all spaces not otherwise excluded above, such as principal rooms, utility rooms, bathrooms, all closets, and hallways opening directly into any room within the dwelling unit. Stairways and all attic area having a clear height of 7.5 feet or more from the finished floor level to the roof rafter. For purposes of this chapter, livable floor area shall also mean habitable floor area. So the definition they replaced with, let me just see if I can find the change. They did exclusive of unheated garages, unenclosed breezeways, unenclosed porches, non-habitable spaces defined by the New York State Building Code, contained within basements as defined herein. Livable floor area shall include all spaces not otherwise excluded above, such as principal rooms, utilities, bathroom, all closets, and that's all the same. Stairways and all that, yeah, so, the big one is, it looks like what they've done is, because basements wasn't
right.
really defined, the non-habitable space is defined by the New York State Building Code.
Okay,
So if you've got a properly finished basement, that's included in FAR, the non-habitable, unfinished basement
there's not.
would not be.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. Okay.
Any questions on that?
Nope. We're moving now, Elizabeth, keep going.
You know, I've been by some houses that are owned by whatever, and people are in there, 12, 8 cars out front,
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
and
We're gonna
then,
talk about that later. We're getting there.
and then you see the garage actually has cubicles set up in the garage
It's for child labor.
where people are living. Can you imagine?
Okay, can we
Let's move on.
focus? Okay,
Where are you going?
this is local law 15 of 23.
Mm-hmm.
This is the
General map
general
change.
zoning map changes. Okay, and this has several, so we'll go through them one by one and we'll discuss each one.
Good, because I have a question on one of them, but go ahead.
Okay, so there is a little triangle, I'm on page 2, all right,
Mhm.
between Spring Street and Clark Street, which is currently zoned GB, and they are proposing to move it into the CB because GB is nowhere near it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Let me just pull up my Yeah, so there's a little triangle out there. It's kind of just this little island of GB.
Mm-hmm.
And that portion of it, they're gonna put into the, CB zone, which effectively adjoins, so it's just moving the existing CB zone over on one lot. Okay. The other half of the GB triangle, if you go to the page 3, the next one, is moving those into SR10.
So they split that triangle a little bit, like if it was,
And I think
Yeah.
that was to be consistent with what's existing.
right, mm-hmm,
And a lot of these changes are to reflect existing character.
yes.
So there's that one. Any discussion on that one?
No.
Okay. Now, the area in Prospect, Street,
Mm-hmm.
which is currently SR20, if you look in the legislative purpose, they're actually downzoning that to SR10 because most of those houses don't comply with SR11
They're smaller.
anyway.
Yeah,
They're all
smaller
small
yards, smaller,
lots.
I think that makes sense.
They don't comply, everything in there is that size anyway.
Yeah.
It's largely developed, so you're not gonna get, could somebody theoretically come in and redevelop? Yes, but that's less likely.
Right,
So that strip, and so that now creates a continuous strip of SR10 if you take the one we just talked about and makes that,
and anything that's,
Those big ones?
anything that becomes non-conforming would just be grandfathered.
assuming it stayed and wasn't abandoned or wasn't destroyed.
Right, right.
All right, continuing with the change. The next big one, which is page 5. Many of the lots along Maple Avenue, which are currently in the CB zone.
So I'm noticing something on this one, Elizabeth, and I'm not sure why they did this, but, so my house is right there, now included in that, which stands alone. So they came across the road, for what reason, I'm not sure. And I don't know that it helps or hurts anything, as far as I'm concerned, but more of the curiosity of why they
Because
did it.
you're on Mill Pond. and-
Where's your house in there, just so I can?
Right there.
Oh, okay, that's right.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, if you look at Maple,
Yeah.
and come straight down Maple toward the green there,
Mm-hmm.
across the street, there'd be no reason to extend it, because I'm in the CB now. So there'd be no reason to extend it there, like, I don't know what it's for.
We can ask the rep.
Yeah, I just wanna ask them what was the purpose,
So you're talking everything,
right past, so that's Stage Road that it crosses over, so Maple hits Stage, and if you go straight across the street, that's Mill Pond Parkway.
right, so everything between Stage and Mill Pond?
Yeah, and they even included the one lot, so that, see that lot that's, it's on Mill Pond and Stage, that little half pie? You know what I mean?
Mm.
Hold on, I'll check that.
Sorry. Right here, that's my house,
Okay.
and see this one?
Yeah.
That is owned by the village, taken care of by the village, all the rest are houses. Or, these are houses right here, and then it hits the church, the consignment shop, all that stuff there. But that one is just a piece of grass. That is it's village owned. So maybe they're thinking of putting
I don't know.
selling it off and putting a house, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, put it, because you could build a business.
I wouldn't even go there.
But you could build a business there too. I don't know why they wouldn't keep it CB on that. You know what I mean? It doesn't, like the break, I understand the Maple totally, but because even across the street from me is, which is now included, is the Masonic Lodge and all that.
It's in.
Yeah, that's in there.
Yeah.
That's
commercial
included.
business.
So it cuts off at the new apartment, well, the new,
See the plumbing place down there in the
Yeah.
bottom? It's in the blue? That's the old plumbing place.
very bottom, yeah.
And then right next to that is the new
Right.
310 Stage, which is the
The six.
six,
Right above
apartments.
it, yeah.
And then right above that,
Hold on, let me pull them out. You're making my head spin.
yeah, I mean, I could show you off here too, unless you have the overlay there.
No, yeah, I wanna pull up a, I wanna pull up a, I wanna pull
So I probably would have broke that along this line here,
Right.
because it doesn't, I don't know, unless they might have something in their minds, I have
So
no
what's the
idea.
intention of, they might make this, what are they making
So
this?
this is, so this is going from CB
Right.
to SR 10,
10,
which, you know, so, but then you have these businesses, well, and you have the
Right.
church right there,
Right.
which doesn't matter, because that's an entity of its own, right? You have the town owns stuff down here, you have the
Right.
racetrack right back here,
right,
the old racetrack,
yeah, the racetrack's over here, right
Yep.
there.
right there, which is where it should be on the zone. And then this is SR 10, there's a couple of homes back there. And then
Yeah.
The DPW has some
Right.
stuff as well, all the way down the end, but then they have a funeral home right here.
Right,
And that looks like they left the funeral home in the CB,
yeah,
which makes sense to me, you know what I mean?
Okay, so, I'm looking, we have Megara Stagecoach Inn, that's your house, isn't it, Jeff?
No, across the street from that is my
Across
house.
the street is your house.
So they've now
But
got the,
that's next to, so I'm looking, that's 310 Stage, right?
mhm.
yep.
And then Megara,
Yeah, let me see what you're looking at. This here.
yeah. So they've got this, and they've got,
Right, so McGarrett's, so here's my house. This is the new, that's not on here.
Becomes a personal law. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. And then this is out of it, so
it's
that.
a room, that's.
CB is
that-
commercial
that's where
business.
it
What's
ends.
CB?
This, all of this just got included.
Central business.
And
What is
why?
it? Central
They
business.
could have done this, see, this here, this house
What
right
is it?
here.
Central
that
business.
house. Why not break it right there?
But that's
This
what the
makes
difference
more- To me, it makes more sense, unless they have something that they're thinking.
It does.
For this,
What is the
and
difference
that little
between
piece
CB and
there,
GB?
that's
Central
not
General?
what I'm talking about. Make that SR 10.
It's a really good question.
You know what I mean? It's all on part of stage road. It's just, now they may have other, they just didn't put in here that they may,
Well, let's read,
Now, Elizabeth, can we ask a quick question, just to clarify, a quick question? General business versus central business. Can you give us a real layman's difference that we're missing?
so, the easiest, the legal answer is difference in permitted.
uses, yeah.
Generally speaking,
Put apartments
your
over the
central
top.
business is your downtown core, lakes, stage, those smaller businesses. General business is more like 17M
Yeah,
and all those businesses along that, because that's all GB.
Right.
208 corridors, GB,
isn't it you can have residential above your business too? Isn't that
In
one of the
CB, yes,
pieces
you
in the
can.
CB?
you
I
can.
think that was a
So
big
your
one because,
usage, okay.
because, yeah, you're encouraging more,
The GB is more regional uses, there's more car there's more car traffic, CB is more,
Pedestrian.
walkable.
right,
type,
pedestrian.
Village oriented.
Right,
So, that's the layperson.
Gotcha.
It always comes down to what the bulk tables allow you to
Okay.
do in each of those.
Right.
But you can tell, like, the downtown core is very different from
So typically
the
generals-
shopping mall is, the strip malls on 17M. So,
right.
that's why they're, okay, so I'll ask Max that question and we can address that, and see if we can better articulate the rationale for that particular, change. But the general discussion, just so I'm clear, is it's the southern end of Maple, the rest of Maple, that makes sense to you guys?
Yes.
Is that,
Yeah,
we're all,
yeah, unless there's a reason, like, that we don't know what they're
there may
thinking
be a
there.
okay, rationale, but I
Right.
think I get it, so effectively, do you wanna include Megara's or not include,
I wouldn't include it because it's part of that whole CB that you're going down. If they ever turn that over to something else, you're gonna see, they could make it partly residence, partly, business, who knows?
okay, I'll ask for, there may be a rationale and you go, oh, that makes more sense, so let me ask. Okay,
Yeah, because what are you gonna do with McGarry's? It doesn't fit an SR 10 lot anyway. doesn't, it would be non-conforming, it's much larger.
Well, it can be much larger, it can't be,
Which can be small, right?
and SR tens are small zone.
This is going to SR10, they're saying, right?
Yes, that's your smallest zone, not your biggest.
Right, so it's,
So the garage is fine and because it's oversized. The lot is bigger.
You just can't do smaller, that.
Well, and it would be a pre-existing non-conforming use.
well, that's what I'm saying, unless they abandon it as its current use.
That's the building, not the lot.
Right,
If the building was non-conforming.
right, which I gotta believe it is, for a few
Well-
reasons. But we'll see. But yeah, I'd be interested in the rationale, so, okay,
Okay, moving on.
page 6.
Page 6, okay, there are 4 single-family residential lots in the CD zone. 3 of them are on Ninth Street and 1 is on High Street. And effectively what they're doing is they're taking these that are not consistent with the CD zoning and just pushing them into the adjoining district where they would be conforming.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's just shifting the line over.
And there's that one little one too, on the very
It
edge.
says 4 lots,
Yes.
it's on the other end.
It's 3 and 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, the last one, page 7, we had a piece of property that was annexed in, that was never zoned, and it's, north of, the park, so they're putting that in VR.
Oh, yeah.
It just never got a zone when it came.
So it's the village property, but
Correct.
it looks like it's in the town, like
It is,
currently.
well,
'Cause it's
it
not zoned.
was in the town, it's now been annexed into the village.
Oh,
And they never gave it a zone, so they're gonna give it a zone.
when was it annexed? Do you know? You don't have to go crazy, so you knew.
It's been during Elise's tenure, so Elise has been village attorney
The
since,
town gave up property to the village, or they
on consent.
Where is
That's
that,
odd to
where is
me.
that, off of High Street?
No, up Scunnamunk, all the way to top of, coming up
Top of
Scunnamunk. Yeah, like Highland, right above Highland, up by that dog
Yeah.
park there.
No, I know, but I know Elise did that work, so Elise has been here, 2 years longer than I have, so I think you guys
It's here.
hired me
Mhm.
20.
It's that piece there, right? Yeah.
Wow.
20 or 20, COVID.
I'm just wondering why, our village, our town supervisor gave that up.
I wasn't sure it was doing that. All right. With respect, because there are discrete changes, I'm going to do the 4 questions on each of the changes. Obviously, we had the discussion, it appears that the bulk of these, though, are to make the map match what exists.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we have the question as to the rationale on, so that the total extent of the Maple Avenue change, but for the bulk of the Maple Avenue change, you have no issue with that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Okay, and I think furthers the district. I'll answer the question as to which areas, the areas that are, these are discrete areas, so it's easy to describe. Any indirect implications you can see for this?
The only thing I could see, and I just thought about this now, for the one lot that's on that corner where I was just talking about with Maple, it's on the corner of Mill Pond and Stage. They might not want, again, it's a pretty decent sized lot, so they might not want it to become, like a big edifice or something over there. So maybe that's, because there are houses all next to that. You know what I mean?
You're talking the Megaras in.
No, I'm talking across the street on that, yeah, I'll show you real quick. It's just the, I'll just show it to you.
Yeah,
Yep, got it. This one is village owned, right there, that little pie.
your lot is more consistent with the SR ten zone than the CD zone.
Yeah, I understand.
I can ask the rationale, okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay. You got one, how many more do you have in?
How many more what?
Any more you got in you?
Okay,
Keep rocking.
I can tell Charlie to wake up now.
What do they do, Charlie? Teach in law school how to sit through this stuff? Oof.
He's doing his job.
Wait until the kids are in bed till I get home.
Okay, so, this is local law 13 of 23.
Light industrial?
This creates a light industrial zone,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, the commercial area branching off New York State Route 17M and along New York State Route 208.
Yeah, we talked about this a lot last time, and you were gonna go back and find out why they wanted to go light industrial, because we were talking about what kind of traffic. They were saying they
Well,
wanted heavier
yeah,
truck traffic.
we did raise that, we did raise that issue in our comprehensive plan review. What I will say is, what I did when I got this local law is, and I took the existing GB bulk table, and I compared it to the way it and from a lay perspective, the way it sounded when we read it was, they wanted warehousing
Right.
and like
Trucks.
Amazon that's
Yeah.
the way we initially read it. I'll go through the uses, you'll see that it's not quite that way, and so
Right.
I think it'll be more palatable, but I'll leave that to your discretion. So, you can see on the map where they've created, the LI zone in
Mm-hmm.
that corridor. And then the biggie is the use table. So I did go through and compare line by line the use table. So I'll tell you what the uses came out, and I will tell you that the spacing is all the same. So
Mhm.
they've eliminated some uses. Okay, neighborhood shopping area, shopping center, office, these are the uses that have come out.
Yep.
Personal service with floor area per establishment no less, than 1,000 square feet. Public passenger transportation terminal excluding taxi business. Religious assembly, residential to commercial conversion. Restaurant with floor area per establishment of no less than 1,000 square feet. Retail stores. Bank or financial institution, car wash, daycare, drive-through and drive-up establishment, food service sales, no wait staff, laundry service, membership club. One change to motor vehicle fuel dispensing, they've left it as existing only, so they don't want any new gas stations up there.
Right.
All right, shopping center has come out, tavern has come out, taxi business has come out, feeder or cultural center has come out. That leaves for you. And when I said office, they didn't really pull out all office. They allow, I should be clear, professional office excludes medical and dental and business. I would imagine, and this is supposition on my part, that the rationale is on a professional office, you come in at 9, you're there all day, you leave at 5. The medical and dental, you've got patients in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out all day long. So everything else, ambulance, existing residential, fire protection services, funeral interment services, garden center, hotel, motel, kennel, light industry,
These are allowed.
allowed. Existing motor vehicle fuel dispensing stations, motor vehicle repair and paint shop, excluding quick, like, Jiffy-Lubes,
Right.
like quick
Mhm.
service. Motor vehicle sales, postal service, professional office excluding medical and dental. Public parking lot structure, public utility right of way, recreational facility, indoor with a floor area of no less than 1,000 square feet. Recreational facility outdoor, research
So it's funny, because some of these are the same, they're like a vet clinic, you're going in and out with people, a postal service, kidding, it's like in and out all the time, all day long, so I don't understand what the, unless they're grandfathered somehow or always allowed or always permitted.
And just to be clear, there is a grandfathering provision, in the proposed local law
Yeah, I see
specifically,
it,
208.
right. Yeah, so, I don't know, my only question for them, not that it really matters, is like, why a vet clinic, why a postal service? Because it's the very thing they're saying they don't want to have, you know, the in and out traffic, like the Jiffy Lube. Unless they didn't realize that, I don't know.
Why, as to, you said postal,
Yeah, postal service, right, veterinary clinic. Even self-storage, you got people coming and going all the time.
do you know if there's an existing,
Vet clinic?
is there, yeah, that clinic
Yeah, there's multiple ones.
in that area?
Yeah, there's one on Spring Street.
Spring Street's not that.
Yeah, so right, like in that, I mean, it's like a minute away from that area. So
I don't know that like vet clinic traffic is as busy as gas station traffic, you know what I mean? So maybe that's their thought in, that you go to a vet,
I'd say it's as busy as like Jiffy Lube.
Would
I mean,
you?
My vet is. You're over there, there's,
yeah,
you know, you're waiting.
I don't know, I'm trying to understand maybe what the thought process is, like.
I mean, that's
So
just my thought.
that's a question for Max.
Like
Yeah.
gas stations, you'll see like, you know, cars backed into each other, I don't really ever see.
No, I agree with the gas station. no
Right, I
way.
mean, that's, I'm
That's
thinking,
a
I don't know.
nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my assumption.
No, I'm just curious, because some of this is what they're trying,
In and out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
you know?
So they have, not well suited for, so the legislative purpose reads the commercial area branching off New York State Route 79 and along New York State Route 208, the north end of the village is zone general business, but is not well suited for frequent consumer vehicle access.
No, garden centers, you know, they have,
Two gas stations in this vicinity are a source of traffic congestion given the complex traffic climate in the area. The village should promote more limited uses in this area, favoring heavy commercial, light industry, warehousing, and office uses instead. So it's not really truly a light industrial zone
no,
of what I think of a light industrial zone. It's kind of a GB,
Right.
Yeah.
A busier GB, so to speak, or?
not a,
Less-
busier's the wrong word, but,
type,
it's a step down from GB, but
Right.
it's not a light industrial
Right.
in terms of, there's no real manufacturing process allowed. Light industrial, I think
Metal shop.
manufacturing,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm thinking trucks, I'm thinking, it's usually the least restrictive zone
Right.
in a zoning code. So I'll ask Max to provide.
even a
elaborate-
recreational facility, I mean, if you got a recreational facility, you're like, look at Smith Clove Park, you're,
Hey,
it's like amazing.
So that's for the Y.
What's that?
That's for the Y. The Y is there.
Yeah, the Y too,
Yeah,
that's,
they're already there.
right.
And they have the
I
indoor
don't think the
pool.
Y,
No, it's not there.
hold on, yeah, actually, the Y is in,
Yeah, it's there. Mhm.
the Y is in it.
Membership club.
And they may have included that because the Y, they may have included that use because the Y is already there.
That's what they usually do. If it's there already, it's usually okay.
Gotcha. I don't think anybody put one over there anyhow, but just,
Yeah.
But if you let it in one lot,
you have to let it,
if
you
you,
know,
if you say, okay, we're gonna allow this use because the Y is already there, you just have to be prepared that a
Yeah.
Gold's Gym could come
Yeah,
in,
that's true.
could come in down the road. Okay, so that one, we need more elaboration from Max on that one.
Yep.
Okay. GB changes. Okay, the legislative purpose.
is that 14?
Yes, it's 14.
So it's the bulk regulations?
And this one I did compare. The Village of Monroe comprehensive plan recommended that within the GB zoning district, that a minimum floor area per tenant be established for any new commercial buildings constructed within the village but outside the CB district. The village should limit so really, I went through this line by line. And, there are only two, I'm sorry. There were really only two changes, to research facility and residential to commercial, conversion, which was to increase the lot area and then alter setbacks, to come into conformity. So those were the only two. So that's a pretty de minimis change in the code.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have thoughts or discussion on that?
Nope.
So we find that
Really?
consistent?
Yeah, I think that's consistent.
I'll try to type something up. Any, unintended implication or implications?
I have a generic question, I don't know what law it falls under. Need it be this light industrial commercial zone or, you know, CB. What you see now on Route 17,
Mm-hmm.
and you see a lot of the older businesses that were on 17 expanded, big steel structures, and all of a sudden completed. I don't ever remember seeing any of them coming through the planning board.
Sometimes they don't need to.
Okay, second is a lot of tractor trailers are coming in town.
Mm-hmm.
Prime especially. And 3 and 4 trailers at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and they block 17.
Yeah, over by you, that happens like daily, I see.
They,
We've
and
had
it
to
blocks
put a few phone calls
17.
in, where the point where it's
I mean,
dangerous.
there are, I can
Yeah.
name you 3, 4 places along
Yeah.
17
We've
between,
had to put phone calls in.
Yeah, I see it.
between whatever, Stage Road and the Harriman border. You see it all the time.
Well, the idea is they're not supposed.
Aren't these expansion buildings supposed to have enough physical space for their services?
Right, for them
The
to go and turn
tractor
around.
trailers to come in, come on their property, turn around, park, unload, and leave on their property, not interfering with the general public
Yeah.
or going on other people's.
I don't know what the actual, and that would be an enforcement issue, right? That's an enforcement issue. If there already is a law,
Is there a law?
is there a code that says that? I'm,
That's my question.
So we have our loading standards that are in our, so in the parking regulations, there's both parking spaces, there's a formula to calculate parking spaces based on the parking,
well, parking spaces, but,
and it also regulates loading spaces.
okay. Because there, I wonder that, the only one I'm thinking of is, what's that, Project Supply there?
So it's not even Project Supply, it's the little Amazon distribution center right next to Project Supply.
Okay.
It's a small
Right.
little building that is allegedly an Amazon distribution center that was approved for, and there will literally be 3 tractor trailers loading, unloading on 17M, in and out of
Yeah.
lots. It's a real disaster, actually. And
It's,
that's a great-
it's not funny.
No,
No, it's not funny.
There is a lot of
Yeah.
people
It's
complaining.
dangerous.
You
No,
know,
it's dangerous is the bigger thing. And,
Again,
but right now, Joe, that's an enforcement issue, right? That's not us.
an enforcement of what law though?
Well, it's either a code enforcement, which means if the code is not being met, then the code enforcement officers can go over and do it. Or it's a police department issue because it's an unsafe situation. And
Are people blind? Are people blind to that?
well, I'd say they're not. You're not.
Are they rhetorical? I'm not quite sure. I think the answer is obviously, it's sarcasm, clearly, what
Yeah.
you're saying, because the phone calls have been made. Police have been, it's been documented. They've been over there. I think I know what you're talking about. And there's multiple places, and there is documentation of what you're talking about, I believe. So,
And
but the
then-
question is there a law? We don't
Right,
know.
I don't know if there's a code.
We can have this discussion.
You need a law.
Yeah, the biggest thing I see is when they're trying to back
Right.
out onto 17.
Right.
And they can't do it right, and that's the danger.
They can't even pull in
No,
No,
straight.
it's difficult for them.
the
to
law
pull in
can't
that.
handle that. You're right.
No, you're right, you're right. So that's a problem.
And
So-
now there is a building twice as large as the one that he's talking about being
Being put
built
up.
behind.
Right, but project supply is not the problem. That's what Paul's saying. They can go in and turn those trucks around back in there. They have the room. It's not where it's happening. It's right next to them. It looks like it's project supply, because
Right.
that's who you'd think.
It'd be better if it was that, to be honest with
Right,
you.
it would be. It would
Right?
be better if it was
The
that.
problem is it's the small building next to it, that's the problem. But, yeah, let's keep going. But-
I'm sorry, and
No,
I
I'm with you.
appreciate the conversation and the
Yeah.
referral should be made, but let's, just because it's, we're actually doing better than we
Good,
thought.
finish up.
Okay. All right, so the next one is local law 19.
Yeah, urban residential.
Yep. Um, So they're proposing to eliminate urban, residential
Mhm.
from
Vacant
most
lands.
of the stuff that's not already developed, so this doesn't pertain to the queue that's approved, so that's in. And also there's a section, they're leaving it at Evergreen Lane, and that's to spur redevelopment of, what, isn't that the trailer?
Mm-hmm.
That's the trailer.
Yep. Yeah, they want that to be, it's the Monroe urban residential multifamily. Yeah,
So you can see,
They're gonna redevelop that?
no, I think they're trying to bring it under the comprehensive plan to more fit with the plan of the village and get rid of the URM.
And get rid of what?
Because right now, I think it's URM, like the URM on vacant lands, because there's too much URM in the village as it is. I think everybody knows that.
There's too much what in the building?
URM,
Urban residential,
urban residential,
Okay,
multifamily.
right, multifamily, all that. And then you're, so you're getting stuff that's stuck in the middle of things that doesn't look right. We have a lot of multifamily stuff.
so the
you're
chunk,
seeing a lot of residential homes, business that run out of them.
well,
That's a separate issue.
That's a separate issue.
But that may be true, that's not what we're talking about here. And again, that's a code enforcement, because I know there's laws on the books for
Okay,
that.
so let's just go through the couple of changes. URM, the parcel north of, why am I drawing?
Gilbert Street?
Gilbert Street, the big subdivision that's under construction, why am I drawing a blank?
Bridges, or Smith Farm?
Smith Farm, thank you. Oh my lord, I talk about that project like it's once a month.
That's why you're having a mental block again.
No, I'm tired. Okay. This ties in with the, in the area of Clark Street. Remember we talked about that,
Yeah.
GD triangle, and then there was URM underneath, so
Yeah.
they put that into the SR ten, which makes a nice,
Yes,
SR10
makes much
for
more
the-
sense there.
the
Yep,
whole thing.
yep. Then over by Forshey Street, off of
Yeah.
Freeland.
Hidden Creek.
So that's behind the fire department, right
Yeah.
there.
And that's gonna be active
That-
adjoining GB. and
Yeah, I
that's
think that makes,
That's undeveloped.
yeah, that makes total sense. You can't develop there anyway, it's wetlands. But I think it's a better, absolutely much better.
The chunk above the queue will go into GB, which is adjoins.
Yep, absolutely.
It looks like it's a landlocked parcel anyway.
Isn't, yeah, maybe.
And then what they've done is the
It's all
park by,
wetlands. It's
the
all
park by
wetlands, yeah.
Evergreen
Yeah,
Lane,
back here for sure.
Oh, yeah.
they are recommending that area, urban residential go from URM to URW, which stands for Urban Residential Workforce.
Right, that's the current trailer park.
Okay. And you can see in the URW, allows for ambulance, bread and breakfast, workforce residential, which I'll get into later.
Yeah, I'm
One
wondering.
family detached, and then, public utilities right of ways. And there's a whole process here. And I think the goal here is to, create, workforce housing, or at least that's been the intent. Does anybody have thoughts on that? So the units that are created in here are limited to, 3 bedrooms with the emphasis on 1s and 2s, because that's workforce housing, smaller scale housing, more affordable type housing.
Right.
Young firefighter, might be married, but doesn't have kids yet.
Yep.
Teacher,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sounds like what Spring Street was supposed to be, wasn't it?
It's exactly what it was supposed to be.
does
Hijacked.
anybody have any questions on that?
No, I think that's good.
I wanna go to the analysis.
What's the analysis?
Whether the change is consistent with the aims.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
And principles embodied in the chapter.
Change.
I think this is a little different, because it's a code change, it's a code and comp plan change, so it's hard to answer that question.
Well, Route 17M is a busy street, and to have housing there, that would be the only place that has housing on 17M. I mean, really, if you're gonna make anything big there.
Where are you talking?
The URW, the park, the trailer park area. 'Cause that's the URW. And it's a busy area, and there's no, houses on 17M, really. It's all, business.
I think that's to try to spur the redevelopment of that and have a developer come in and wholesale change it, I would imagine. Look, I can't
No,
speak.
we don't know why, but,
It would be,
it doesn't make sense, I don't think. I personally don't think it makes sense to put housing there on 17M, right there.
So that, yeah, the trailer park sits back behind that though, because it's off of Freeland and there's houses all in front of it. So if you take those streets up into the trailer park, it's behind it, and they would come out on Freeland.
They're gonna come out on 17M because the trailer park.
By CVS, you said.
Yeah, they can come up by CVS, which is a traffic light though. You don't have,
But it's all business. Why would you put more houses there?
yeah, I don't know that they're
I don't
looking to
think
put,
it's gonna wind up with houses, but if it does, they don't fit.
it sounds like they're looking, to me, I don't know for sure. I can,
Right, we don't know.
yeah.
so do you want an explanation on Max as to the
Yeah,
rationale?
like
there?
why? Yeah,
Okay.
why? I don't think it fits.
Okay. So I will talk to him about that one and see, maybe I'll see if he can come to our meeting on the 22nd to go over those questions. I think I'm gonna, we'll see. Okay, this is local law 16,
Okay. It's gonna be architectural review.
Next multifamily.
mixed multifamily in the CB zoning district.
Oh, I just hit 6 instead of 16.
The CB zoning district already allows accessory apartments in the downtown. This multifamily housing is subject to minimum standards for usable outdoor and indoor recreation, as well as safety controls. Because housing within the downtown, night Charlie.
Thank you.
Because
Good night.
housing within the downtown must adhere to 2 separate code sections regarding accessory apartments and multifamily housing. There is some confusion as to which standards apply. The code needs to be revised
So they're saying the CB district is deleted?
No, they're not saying the CB district, so
They're clarifying.
your current CB district has a multi-family housing use,
Right.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they are deleting that and replacing it with mixed-use multifamily above commercial. All right, because in the CB, the large bulk of your apartments are upstairs, business downstairs. And so they have provided a number of standards.
Got it.
And then you'll see that they have added, a special permit
Yes.
special permit requirements.
Yep.
And also, again, it looks like their goal here is to focus, you'll see all units proposed within the building will average no more than 1.5, which means you're talking onesies, twosies,
Right.
for bedrooms. Because they don't want, if your goal is to diversify housing, you want some ones and twos, and then you can have houses with
Yep.
threes and fours and fives.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Ground floor use has to be commercial. Any discussion on that?
No, I think that clarifies.
Okay. So do you find this is consistent with the CD zone?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Agreed.
And I'll type this up more articulately. Any, implications that you might think of? Or indirect implications that I should?
That I can think of.
And I'll make a reference to the comprehensive plan. I have 3 more. Okay. This is 17, this is the multifamily conversion local law. In effect, they wanna do away with the conversions of single-family homes to multifamilies.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On the theory that, you're right, since 2014, there has been a proliferation of illegal conversions and almost no example of a successful, well-maintained multifamily conversion.
I agree.
Is there a definition of a multifamily? I mean, is it, like, what if multifamilies are living in one home, but they, yeah.
Yeah, there is something.
I mean, I think the biggest, our issue is code enforcement.
Multifamily homes, like they did on Franklin Avenue. Those single-family homes, there's one entrance, 2 doors, 2 separate places. What you're talking about is, unfortunately,
Yeah, number of
20,
people, right,
20,
in a
30
building,
people.
right. And there are codes, 'cause you
6,
have to
7.
have X number of sleeping area, you know what I mean?
Well, that's in the, I'm getting there. So multifamily residential is defined as an arrangement of a building or buildings, the occupancy of which is intended for 3 or more families living independently from each other in separate dwelling units. Such may be in a condominium or cooperative ownership or on a rental basis.
Right.
So
this-
maximum of 3, is it?
No, 3 or more families. So an
3 or more.
apartment building, Spring Street is a multifamily, Spring Hill is multifamily.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
This local law is referring to the conversion of an existing
Regular.
single-family house to a multifamily.
Mhm.
There was a period in time when conversions were thought as a way of increasing housing stock and housing affordability.
Mhm.
It's exactly what they did on Franklin. Exactly.
So, I mean, I agree with the law, right?
So they're deleting conversion of existing residential to multifamily and conversion of existing residential to two-family. They're deleted, and they're removing the use.
Yeah, it's trying to gain control, of what's going on. So, I think it's,
So you're in agreement that the proliferation of
Control.
back and forth.
yes,
Long gone.
yeah. Well, maybe able to slow
You
it
wanna
down.
do something? Do what Warwick did. 3-acre zoning in the village. Where are you gonna build? Hardly anywhere.
Right. No
That's
way.
it, over and done. Take all your local laws and stick them.
That's one way to look at it, Joe.
You wanna do it right, you do it right. Warwick did it right.
Yeah.
Right, Elizabeth?
Well, the town has 3 acres in it. There are large
Yeah.
portions of the
Yeah.
town have 3 acres in it.
You're being recorded, so keep your comments.
Well, not in the, you wouldn't do that in your business district, though.
Hmm?
You wouldn't do it in the business district, like what we were just talking about. You still
Yeah.
have the other types of housing, so.
Next, remember we talked about architecture review and out-of-character dwellings?
Yes.
Yep.
18, out-of-character dwellings. So, this is again in review to floor area ratios.
Mhm.
Building construction should also be regulated to prohibit an out-of-character home from being constructed within a given neighborhood. To this end, as a prerequisite to a building permit issuance, the building department should be required to review the height above grade, interior floor area, building coverage, and yard setbacks of nearby structures to ensure the proposed structure does not exceed the character of the established neighborhood beyond a reasonable degree. So what it does is it extends site plan to single-family homes and two-family homes that don't meet certain thresholds, okay? It also extends to anything within a flood hazard zone. So site plan, again, we normally don't see single-family homes on existing lots, they go straight to gen. So, out-of-character dwellings, where expansion involves more than 250 square feet, where either the initial construction or an expansion exceeds any of the following thresholds, it shall be out of character, and subject to site plan approval and architectural review by the planning board. The neighborhood shall be comprised of the 8 nearest single-family detached dwellings located in the same zoning district, fronting on the same street, or such fewer homes as are so located where less than 8 exist. The proposed habitable floor area exceeds more than 120% of the living area of the neighborhood as reported on the tax records of Orange County. The basement is proposed where at least 75% of the neighborhood does not have a basement. A flat or mansard roof, or any roof with a pitch of less than 412 is proposed where at least 75% of the neighborhood has roofs pitched at 412 or greater. The lot coverage is greater than 110% of the neighborhood average. Again, they can rely on the GIS parcel viewer. The following threshold shall also trigger site plan and architectural review. Irrespective of the front setback requirement, a dwelling or an addition to a dwelling that is proposed closer to the street line than both to the adjoining existing neighborhood dwellings where such dwellings front and are located within 200 feet. So the front yard setbacks, even if the neighbors are,
Gotta be equal, yeah.
yeah. And again, that doesn't prevent it, it just triggers site plan,
Right, a
triggers
review.
site plan review and
Hmm.
architectural.
I like that, it
architectural
puts,
review.
yeah, I like that.
So in the neighborhood where it's 1,500 square foot bungalow, 1,500 square foot bungalow, 1,500 square foot bungalow, even though you might meet the requirements, right, Jim just can't issue a permit, and it would at least give us architectural review, so you wanna come in, you have a neighborhood of 1,500 square foot houses, and you're gonna come in and plop a 5,000 square foot house there, we at least get to see it. We won't be able to stop it now, because if it meets setbacks and everything else, exciting and it at least gets a further look.
So 1,500, based on the 110% of the average there, so if the average is 1,500, you're looking at 3,000, 200, above,
So like applying that,
it'd be like 3,400.
it's too late, I'm tired. So proposed little, so you're talking like the neighborhood's 1,500? No, you can only get an 1,800. You can get an 1,800.
So at lot coverage that is greater than 110%, greater than 110% of the neighborhood average.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm reading it incorrectly then, or it could be read either
so
way.
there's a couple of things. So number one, proposed habitable living floor area exceeds more than 120% of average living floor area of the neighborhood. So if all the other neighborhoods are 1,500 square foot houses, you get to do 1,500 times 120%, which brings you up to 1,800.
1,800.
Okay, I was doing the
Yeah.
different math. Okay, okay.
And likewise, if everybody's at, let's say everybody's at 25% lot coverage, right? You could only go up 100, you could go 10% above that, so 27.5% lot coverage.
Yeah, I was seeing it as 110% larger, not 10%.
No, because, yeah.
Because the way I'm reading it, it's saying 110% of the neighborhood average. So,
You're saying you get a
100,
30.
right, so
110,
that's why I get
Right,
30, like
yeah,
3,300.
no, 110% of the neighborhood average is 10%
10% over,
above
right,
the
Yeah,
base.
because 100%.
The base
would
is
be the same.
100%.
So
Right.
20%
That's
more,
where it's
10%
right.
more.
Yeah, I just think, yeah,
Now look, the way
I think it's
read
poorly
these-
written, but that's to me, it's
The
poorly
way I
written.
read it, this code, it doesn't give us the permission to say no. Somebody could come out and if they've got a slightly bigger lot, they can go as far as the code will allow. Because remember, there's bulk standards, right? This is the maximum you can build. And then there's this that says, hey, relative to the neighborhood. Sometimes what the max you can build might be up here,
Right.
relative to the neighborhoods down
I
there.
guess what I'm looking for, Elizabeth, is something that the zoning board can't look at and go, well, this is what this means. Because I looked at it as 110%, why couldn't they do that? 110%,
Matt,
Of the base.
well, depending on like,
I
you-
read it as pretty.
you might have large lots with 1,500 square foot homes on it, but they could take more. But this wouldn't allow it to do that, except by a certain percentage. Unless you think that that's the way it's written and it's clear, because
I think
I've been to our zoning board and I've seen
I think it's,
how things get interpreted.
I think it's clear.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
I agree with him. It's clear.
Perfect.
Okay, do we have, any discussion on this? The other thing that might be triggered, but this is the long game, is if you've got somebody clever, they make house one slightly bigger within those confines, and then they go in and make house two, and they start upping the average.
Right.
That would be a really long game,
Right. Yeah.
but theoretically
Could be
doable,
done.
where they just do house after house
Well,
after house,
When you have nothing but time,
and money.
and money.
Any discussions?
No, I think I like it overall.
Consistency, the neighborhood,
Yeah, I think.
and this is obviously in residential zones.
Right. All right, what do we got left?
We're actually,
Dinner?
Yeah, I know, I'm
you
starving.
guys are so much further ahead than I thought you'd be.
I have eggplant waiting for me.
Oh.
Alright. This is the last one we're gonna discuss tonight. Illegal occupancy, which is local law 10. Yeah, we're still going back and forth on, so I'm not gonna waste your time on that one.
Okay.
Which is what you were alluding to earlier was the illegal occupancy.
Right.
The quote unquote boarding they're tweaking some of the language, so I was asked to hold off on that one.
Okay, perfect.
The next one is 11, is commercial vehicles.
Yep,
This gets to folks using their houses as parking lots for,
oh, I've seen that.
What are we at, what number?
I've seen the Cadillac City up there.
What number? What number are we at?
11.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an issue there.
Crazy. I'm driving by there like
They
2
won't-
weeks ago with my motorcycle. I'm like, what is
They
that?
multiply, it's just like, I don't know.
Across from Sacred Heart, you mean?
Yeah,
That's
No
horrible.
one says anything.
right. I was like, what is that?
I mean, he's running a business there, right? Is he like literally?
I think he's collecting them or something.
No, I think he works on them, and I think he,
alright,
That's my suspicion too, but I
never seen
him move though.
They just did. Just did like all to one side.
alright,
Go ahead.
focus.
We're there, sort of.
So the following shall not be parked in the SR 20, SR 10, and URM zoning districts. Any vehicle exceeding 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight, any vehicle exceeding 20 feet in length, any trailer used for commercial purposes. And then it goes, notwithstanding A through C, one commercial vehicle, oversized vehicle, or equipment may be parked or stored on any lot in those zones, provided, and see, this one is not, this language needs, it does not exceed the threshold, so I get it now. Essentially, you can have a taxi or a, a non-stretch limousine, so if you drive a car service, you can have your commercial sedan. That's the way I read that. I think it's confusing.
seems to really be focused towards commercial-sized vehicles. I mean,
Yeah, but, and shouldn't these new zones potentially coming on not allow, like, not all of them, but the work, the URW? Shouldn't that be,
Well, that's included here.
oh,
I
no.
see under 2. yeah.
under number 2?
The
Is it,
other thing, I will say, what it does, well, I guess not. I just would have to look, like, and I think of it because my assistant, this is her husband, my assistant's husband works for Jones. He's got permission to use the company van, and he
Right.
drives the company van, parks it in his
Right.
apartment, goes to work, and that's the privilege of him working. What are the implications? Now, I would highly doubt that vehicle, I'd be a little surprised if that vehicle was in excess of 10,000 pounds.
probably not.
no,
But you just wanna think about the
Right.
guys, my electrician,
Right, of
mom and
course.
pop electrician,
Right.
they go home, and I
Right.
point that out because,
Right.
right, totally get it,
I use a local guy, and
Mhm.
he's got that standard size box truck,
right,
and
parks at home.
he parks at home.
As you should.
That's not what we're trying to,
No.
that's not what we're trying to
Okay.
stop. So I think that we should put under implications.
Mhm,
Yes, for
mhm,
sure.
mhm.
The mom and pop where it's one vehicle.
Right,
you know,
Right.
yeah, like, if that's your living and it's a vehicle that size and it's under 10,000,
I
or
have to
whatever,
look and see how big the box trucks are, I don't know.
Yeah.
I had a
I'd,
huge fight in Florida over, we were discussing regulating, commercial vehicles in a certain neighborhood, and there was a huge discussion on.
well, a box truck, though, gets bigger, depending on what you're defining. I mean, a box truck, like something that you go rent from U-Haul,
That's about the size, I'm talking like all the trucks that the Jones guys drive, the A-Star guys, the electricians.
no, those are panel trucks they're driving, or
No,
vans.
The vans.
Or
Listen,
vans.
The average car weighs about 3,000 pounds,
Right.
right? So those things I don't
No.
think will exceed. Now with tools, you can argue blah, 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 but,
No, they're talking about the vehicle empty, right, the vehicle
The
itself.
gross vehicle.
yeah.
gross
so-
vehicle weight.
Right, so I think that they're fine.
Right, but I think what is not good is if you have something like a 20-foot box truck or a 15-foot box truck, and it's high, it limits view of people, especially if, that to me is different. But if you're driving a van, a panel truck, vehicles like that, like all the, HVAC guys use, like, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, those are all,
I just want, that's an implication,
Yeah.
because if you've got somebody who's coming home from work,
Mhm.
because a lot of those guys and
Right.
gals are in that.
But if I own a moving
You take 'em
company
home,
and I
yeah.
got a 15-foot or 20-foot box truck, I don't think that should be allowed. You know what I mean? You should have a lot for that, you know? But not, but your service vehicles, I think should be allowed.
Right.
I don't think so.
No? Why, Joe?
I don't think vehicles like that should be in a residential area.
But what if you're a blue collar guy, right? I'm a,
Blue collar, green collar.
no, but I'm an electrician or an HVAC guy.
I'm looking at a vehicle. I don't wanna look at it in my residential area. Now, I can give you another example where you see, what's the, the old Ford on 17M?
The old Ford and 17
Apple?
and
Apple.
Yeah.
The Apple drivers have those big flatbeds,
Right, the tow trucks.
and I've seen them bring them home.
well, those
Well,
exceed.
they exceed 10, they'd be at the 10,000 mark. I don't think that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like Jim,
I'm
know-
talking about a panel truck also.
well, I see that
talking
different,
about
but, so
a
tell me why the
van.
panel truck,
A
as an
van.
example, or a van.
But just a van. A van with windows and no writing on it, that's fine. A
You
van
agree with that, Karen?
enclosed,
Because I wouldn't want it in my residential
The
neighborhood.
answer is
I wouldn't want
no.
to see my neighbor's truck. It takes away from the residential character of the neighborhood, I think. I wouldn't like to see trucks.
I don't wanna look,
next
because
to me.
what winds up happening is in that driveway, all of a sudden, there are boxes stacked up, equipment stacked up,
Yeah.
from
Well, listen,
job
if they're-
to job.
If they're running,
No, I don't wanna
But
see
that's,
it.
but that's different, Joe. You're talking
Yeah,
about
if they're
somebody
running a
operating a
business.
business.
No, it's the same thing. If I take it home, and I don't need certain things in there, and I need room to go pick up something, I'm gonna just take it out of my car, leave it in the driveway. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I see neighbors with,
a lot of garbage.
you know, vehicles that are like station wagons and stuff doing the same thing. Same exact thing. Or vans with windows, leaving their seats. You haven't seen, times I've seen that? They leave all their seats piled in the driveway.
I've seen that.
Right, so, you know, what do you, I think, you know,
I think we listed as an implication.
I was just gonna
And
say the same
I
thing.
think we also say that there was discussion amongst the board, because, and we've done this before, where there's discussion amongst the board, that members of the board felt one way, and other
Yeah,
members felt another way.
difference of
and we can
opinions.
describe, because the board will want that information. We're now, because we're on like I told you, we
Yeah.
started with the most important ones.
Yep.
This isn't keeping up the mayor and the village board at night. You know, it's a discussion to be
Might be
had.
keeping the mayor up at night
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that.
when you got nothing else to do with your time as the mayor, you just watch in on the planning board.
He turned this off an hour ago, you kidding me?
But anyway, the point is, of what we've done, the others are significantly more critical. So if this happens this month, next month, we can.
Right, that can always be edited.
But
Yep.
if it's your house in your residential area, it's critical to you.
Yeah,
So it's maybe not critical to everybody.
no, she's just talking about timing. She's just talking about
And to
timing.
be clear, when I say critical, I'm talking in
For the-
relationship to the moratorium.
Right,
Because
because that's
the
lifting.
issue, the real issue is the moratorium is set to expire again,
Right,
and,
September.
Yeah.
and they wanna have these bigger ticket items done. The parking on commercial, is not gonna result in a flood of applications for, because that's not, this is more of an enforcement issue that doesn't necessarily have to,
September 1.
it doesn't necessarily have to be right away, okay?
They can add that one in October or November, it doesn't matter, because they're gonna get to it. It's just, we're just trying to solve
What local law was that with the box truck?
the moratorium lifting. They need to
It
pass
is
those codes
11.
before the moratorium comes.
Okay.
That's what we're really looking
Mhm. This is part of it though, otherwise it wouldn't be proposed now.
on. No, they're just,
And the
It is, but that
moratorium
one's
is
not gonna
set to
cause a
expire
massive
September
building to
1,
go up in
right?
your neighborhood.
No.
And it's
September
not gonna
20?
be somebody,
I believe it's.
you know, the timeframe
Because I
on
know it
like,
was
we know
enacted
when the moratorium lifts,
Mhm.
there's gonna be a
June
ton
1.
of applications that have nothing to do with that.
for a 3-month
I mean,
extension.
that's all we're carrying, you know, and then the village, right, because they're not, the
20th?
board,
Okay.
It's in the 20s.
we have time because they're gonna take time.
Mhm.
So they need to get all these other ones
Yes.
passed.
So they can-
So, yeah, so that's why this is kind of last.
So, here's what I'm gonna do. Tomorrow morning, I will upload the red line of the places of worship so you can see the changes.
Yeah.
I will tell you, because we didn't really get into it, you might just find that it's easier to review the clean copy because we really didn't go into depth
Right,
because of where they said they were. I'm going to work on typing up these conversations into coherent and into the questions that we have. And I will do everything I can. I lose time because of the timing of the month.
yeah,
I normally have another week.
yeah.
Not this time.
Not
This
this time. I got 8 days, well, I have 7 days. And I have a couple of other big things going on. So I will do my level-headed best. We're likely going to, I'm gonna try my best, but we will likely have to schedule a special meeting for either the last week of August or
For which one?
it's actually the last week of August.
Just because for this,
Wrap all this up.
yeah,
I will do everything I can not to do that, but I can't make any promises.
maybe the village can spring for a meal for everybody and we can meet at the captain's table.
Texas wiener.
So,
Texas
There
wieners.
you go.
take a look at,
Make that a local law.
what I'll do is, I will try to get, as I write these, I will upload them to the OneDrive, and then please take a look at, and I'll send everybody an email tomorrow, I'll try to actually do it tonight. I'll send an email when the red line is up, and then as I go, take a look if there's any changes you want, and then we'll just go through them and edit, and then adopt them as we go. Anybody have, as my law professor would say, concerns, disputes, debates?
Nope, I think that's a good,
Say comments, concerns, disputes.
nope, I think it's a good plan. I think what we need, Elizabeth, is just to put that date or set that time. So do we want to do that now? Just tentatively, even if we say we don't need to?
Yeah, actually, to get a sense of calendar,
Yeah, because while we're all sitting here, if we need to do that, because you need a quorum.
yeah. Now, dare I say, it's the 5th week of the month, so it's actually easier for me. I'm pretty good, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Of next week?
of the 28th. The week of the 28th.
I can't make the 29th. I can't make the 29th. I have a budget meeting at work.
I can't do the 31st.
Tuesday is what, the 30th?
Wednesday's the 30th.
Monday's the 28th.
So Monday, Wednesday?
Yeah, I could do Monday or Wednesday of that week.
Alright.
Is that good for you,
Yeah,
Marilyn?
that's good for me. Just
Wednesday, 30th?
Tuesday's the only day.
Monday or Wednesday, was one of them better for you?
I'm off.
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday? Wednesday's good with me.
Okay, we're probably,
What's the date?
This month,
30th.
next, so 2
August
weeks.
30th. Wednesday, August 30th.
Wednesday, August 30th.
Yeah,
Okay.
there may or may not be court, now it's the 5th week of the month, so I know
Captain's Table has a room.
we may be upstairs.
Can we get a camera over there? I don't know if we want that. Keep your beverages low.
Alright. Any other?
I think we're good, are we good with that? All right, so put that in the calendar, we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Member Kelly, and second,
I'll second.
Member Hefnecker, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Elizabeth, put that in your notes. Don't stop anything.